Welcome, friends, acquaintances, lovers, to episode 326 of the Fake Nerd Podcast. No, your eyes do not deceive you. Ben Magnet is here. I have returned. I have returned from across the Pacific Ocean to hang out with my bros and talk to them about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the newest and last Marvel film that James Gunn has talked about. And also, I'm going to gush about the delicious food I had, the beautiful beaches I was swimming in, and the horrible sunburn I got because someone forgot to rub in sunscreen on my back and it got me a horrific sunburn, and that was fun. That last bit actually happened, and it's not my fault. I actually did put sunscreen on. But anyways,
it seemed too specific to not be true.
Yeah,
exactly. Anyways, I'm of course here with my bros, Brandon T. McClure. Brandon, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm happy you're back.
It's good to be back. And of course, Sparks and Ryan, they are there sharing their screen as always. Sparks, hello, friend. How are you?
Hi, Ben. It's good to see you. You'll never listen to the Sisu review, but I complimented you in it.
It's true.
Yay.
You did.
Thank you. Or do I have to look at you sus?
I said I complimented you. Take it.
Okay, I'll take it. And of course, last but certainly not least, Mr. Ryan Eliopoulos. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Ben. Also, welcome back. We're here to guard some galaxies and talk about some comic books. We're all about the universe today.
Yeah, we are here to guard them galaxies. But before we talk about guarding them galaxies and some crazy shit that happened in the news, Brandon, are there some links down below or something?
No.
Oh shit. Okay.
Something.
First day
No,
back.
for the first time ever, there are no links. We did nothing. We have nothing to promote. It's all erased.
Weren't there Grayson and Ben episodes?
Oh, right. Shit. Yes. There are links in the description. I'm just being an idiot. Look, it's down there. Check out my CBR author profile. I don't know what the hell's going on there, but there's things there you can check out.
Stuff is going on.
But my latest entry in revisiting the Infinity Saga was out this past week. I had decided to talk about a movie that I really like, and I think we all really like, Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just try to articulate one of the reasons why I think it's really important, why I really like it, which is Iron Man suffering from PTSD in the film, which I think is actually very well handled. Specifically in regards to how Tony is portrayed, not necessarily how Pepper is portrayed, which I did try to go into a little bit about, but I decided against it. So there's that. I'm still kind of chugging along there, trying to get to 1. I think this is 26. So,
Almost
making
there.
my way downtown.
Just a little under halfway to go.
And then Ben,
yeah,
talk about you for a bit. Welcome back once again. Happy you're here. I missed you. I love you.
Missed you and love you too, bro.
Did you miss talking about all the things you do outside of this show?
I don't know.
The answer is yes, Ben, because you have 4 episodes of Grayson Live.
Yes.
Now, real quickly, all 4 episodes are not linked below. Instead, I have linked Grayson's channel below. So just go to his channel, subscribe to it, and check out those. The last 4 videos are all Ben Magnet.
Yep. Yeah, because right before I left on my trip to Hawaii, he and I sat down and we cranked out a bunch of Mega Man X4. The end isn't there yet, but we're getting very close. I believe the last episode he uploaded was me doing the boss rush. So that's up there. That's ready to go. And I took down Colonel. I took down the general. And I'm doing the boss rush on my way to fight the big bad himself. So go ahead and check those out.
And Dan Dark.
Yes. I actually did not listen to the most recent episode of Dean Dark where I was in Hawaii. I missed out on that. But this is, I mean, I was part of it. So does it count that I helped make the episode?
Yeah, and you technically listened to it because you were a part of it already.
Yeah.
I mean, he wants to listen to it with the fancy effects.
No, I get it. I get it. That's very
do.
different than a normal podcast. That's true.
I do. But yeah, if my memory serves, the latest episode that came out was when we finally we finally meet and get into some sort of confrontation with Anksunamun, Imhotep's wife, because the whole time we were going through the museum, we thought that we were going to have to fight a king, but apparently that museum, like the real British Museum, got a lot of things wrong and messed up royally because they thought, oh, this person in a coffin, yeah, totally King. Surprise. No, it wasn't.
A delightful episode once again. I really enjoyed it. I wanted to say real quickly, Dan is an excellent DM.
He is. He truly is.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just fancy editing, but I started listening to another to a Star Trek Adventures, which is the Star Trek equivalent to Dungeons and Dragons podcast, and it's fun. It's fine. The I guess they're game masters in that regards. He's fine. Whatever. But Dan is very good, and just having the two contrasts, I was like, "Oh wow, yeah, actually, Dan is just really good at this."
Dan definitely embodies the rule of cool when we're playing D and Dark and Dungeons and Dragons. He's definitely the type of DM where it's like, you know what, I'm just gonna let you. He's the type of DM who will reel us in when he needs to, but most of the time he'll just let us go hog wild. Like last episode before Anksunamun, me riding the T-Rex, he's like, you know what, F it, I'll let you have your spectacle. Have fun, because he knows it's as much fun for him as it is for us. So yeah, especially
D&D is it's like improv with like dragons. So like, the more yes and the more fun you will have. The less like wall stopping you are, the more fun it is to just like, yeah, that is just be silly about it. Why not?
I think my favorite thing about Dan on the show is that when you come up with something that's creative enough or interesting or fun, then he'll give you a little bit more leeway to possibly pull it off.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or if you just say, sometimes where we say something really funny or really stupid, you get the point of like the DM inspiration, which is essentially we get to re-roll a free advantage roll, or the dreaded D4 psychic damage when one of us makes a bad pun.
Yeah.
But listening to the Star Trek Adventures podcast, to Ryan's point, there's a lot of no buts happening, not a lot of yes ands, and I was like, this is kind of not as fun.
Yeah.
Maybe when you need to find a different show.
Maybe.
Yeah. When the rules lawyers come in, it kind of does hamper the D&D experience. But hey, D and Dark, go ahead. New episodes Wednesdays. Yay!
Very good show. Jeremy is not here to promote this. However, a new episode of Suburban Proctologist is out.
I'm here.
Sparks is here to do it. What do they say at the Oscars? Accepting in Jeremy's honor.
Well, I mean, like, I'm on the episode. I can talk about it. I helped write it. I know what the episode is. It's a good one. We have been sitting on it for a while. The whole thing is like, this episode was finished like a year and a half ago. Yeah. The reason we never released it is because Jeremy and I, driven by Jeremy's decision, were retooling all the previous episodes. And so we wanted to wait until we finished retooling all those episodes. That process has taken longer than we anticipated when we set out to do it for a variety of reasons. And so Jeremy told me at a certain point that he's like, I'm just going to drop it. Like, it's just been sitting there. It needs to just drop. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. That's fair. So there's still like, not literally every episode before this one, but most, I think everything up to episode 8 is going to be re-released in a new version at some point.
HD remaster.
As Jeremy said, we're very much George Lucasing it because part of it is because like Jeremy creates the score and the music for Suburban Proctologist, and he's just reached a point where he's very unhappy with the way he did music for the first chunk of episodes and all kinds of other things. And he's like, there's stuff that he knows we're doing right now with the show that he's like, we could have led to better. So there's going to be new version. Anyway, the point being, there's a very good episode 10 out. If you remember where it left off,
you might have to recap.
No,
because it's been like 4 years.
That I don't believe he did. I haven't listened to the episode, so if I'm sure he recorded a little thing.
Sure.
And he might have recapped because of the longevity of it, but I'm not 100% on that one. But I do know the content of the episode. It's a fun one.
Yeah. Obviously, Jeremy Vellucci does all the musical compositions you hear on the Fake Nerd Podcast family of podcasts, as well as hosts the Real Score. So check his show out.
Real quick note, like Pi Dron, our other friend of the podcast, also featured prominently in that episode. So it's a good one.
Yeah. So as far as the network goes, Animation Station released a new episode just in time for May the 4th, where myself, Sparks, and Ryan talked about Star Wars Visions, the first volume of Star Wars Visions, I should say.
Yeah. That was a ton of fun. Which one was our favorite? It's not the one you think.
Well, it's the one I've been saying for years. My favorite is obvious.
Which one was not Brandon's, but our favorite?
Yes,
it might not be the one you think.
Yeah, great show. Really happy to finally get to do that. Volume 2 soon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully with in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So check that out. My latest episode of Conversation. I'm moving along with Conversation. We're now into episode 2. We're still early days episode 2, so I'm still tweaking. I'm still finding my new groove because, as I said, I kind of overhauled a lot of the episode, a lot of the way I edit the episode. I'm learning some new audio tricks. I just got a pop filter, not present on the episode, but hopefully will be soon. Because I noticed in this last recording, I was making a lot of popping noises, so I wanted to fix that. So I got as you can see for the video watchers, new pop filter. But this episode, episode 2, is about Kyle Andry. Kyle Andry is the host of the Dragon Ball Super Dope podcast, which is a Dragon Ball Super podcast that he talks about it, but he goes through he went through all the Dragon Ball Super when it was airing, and he's going through the manga right now. He's gone through other things, talk to people. Really fun chat. Really enjoyed talking to him. He's a really cool guy. I recorded that last year sometime. So it's certainly been a while. I've been sitting on that one for a while.
Before Obi-Wan came out.
Oh, you listened to it?
I've listened to most of it.
Okay.
It is like a year.
Yeah, it was. I had to make the note because I wanted to I kind of want to tell audiences kind of the space we were in when we were recording it, and so it was before Obi-Wan and before Dragon Ball Super came out. Dragon Ball Super Superhero, sorry. So I was like, just so you guys know, this is before this happened, and we do talk about it.
Right.
We talked about how excited we were for Obi-Wan.
Sure.
For how that turned out, go to our Fake Nerds Watch episodes.
Hey, half of that show is pretty good.
That's true. Half of that show is pretty good. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I'm really happy with that episode. I'm really excited to finally get that out there. Please check it out. The last link.
Sorry, just real quick, because you brought up Obi-Wan, and I think it's a good anecdote. This week, and we'll probably touch on it just a little bit more later, but we watched the first 2 episodes of Rebels, and I was sitting next to my wife, and the Grand Inquisitor shows up in the show, and she's like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "We saw that guy. He's in Obi-Wan." And she's like, "That's not the same guy." In design and execution, she's like, "No way." And I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty bad in the live action show, isn't it?"
Sounds different, looks different. Yeah, can't blame
Bird.
That's really funny.
It was funny.
Okay, and the last thing I'll mention, we're going to talk about in the news a lot, which is the writer strike. The WGA has gone on strike. I have linked below the WGA strike website, the hub for anything you guys want. You guys want information on that strike? It's linked below, where you can support writers. Linked below. We'll talk about it more when we get to our news, but that is there.
Cool.
All right, so who wants to go first of their week?
I will.
Probably.
I have practically nothing to add.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I listened to some Conversation. It's a good show. Can't believe that I'm plugging it, but hey, good show. There it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't finished the second episode because I didn't quite get there, but I'm mostly done. And then similarly, I'm all caught up on D and Dark. While Ben was gone, I listened to all of D and Dark. While Ben was away. So I'm there, baby. You've made some bad decisions, sir. I'm there, baby. It's a fun show.
Got a happy, normal brain.
Sometimes I sit there and I'm just like, oh, Ben, no. The greed.
Yeah.
Now that we're all here, we're all watching it, Ben, I want to talk about something that it makes me laugh, and I swear this isn't in a negative way. I love your accent work, and by that I mean a third of the time it's not even there. And sometimes you're British, and sometimes you just have a dark voice, and I'm like, I love it. I love it. I think it's just sometimes you really get into it, and then sometimes you're like, not today.
It's funny because I know Ben so well that I'm like, oh man, this is when Ben wants to say something really cool. And then sometimes you don't have all of the words. You have most of them, and then you get to the end and you're like, I'm like, oh man, it's like when Ben does intros.
But real quickly though, on the accent thing, I don't want to harp on it, but like, what did they say on the show? You're English.
English.
Yeah.
So it's that's your accent.
No,
it's English.
His excuse, and Ben, you can definitely use this if you want on the show, and I won't take credit. It's that he has like the different body parts.
Yeah.
So he's got some different vocal cords pieces going on.
The
tongue's not the same as the vocal cords.
Sure. Yeah, that's true.
Honestly, Spice, when Ryan was talking about my accent, the first thing that came to mind was like, well, I am a Frankenstein monster. I could just say they're just different vocal cords, and sometimes when I talk, they just certain ones just come in and out. It's not consistent. And
it's a very good canon excuse.
Yeah, it's a very good, because I do agree, because there are times where I'm talking, I just do straight regular accent, and then I do the Frankenstein voice, and I start talking like this, and then I just do other voices, and I completely fluctuate. And now it's like, you know what, it's Frankenstein monster. I just have a bunch of different voices.
To be fair, the only other person who really does like heavy accent work besides you is Daniel. Like heavy a lot, and not counting Danger Dan, and like his has gotten a lot better, but definitely when you guys like the first like 7 episodes, it was also just about as in and out as yours.
In the comments, what is it?
Jordan currently sweating.
See, the thing is like
super
applesauce. Jordan, the thing with Jordan is that her accent is always, even if it's not 100% there, the tenor of the character is always the same. I always know when Jordan is doing the voice of Larry and when Jordan is being Jordan. Like the separation is clear.
Yeah.
Even if the accent isn't always 100%, like the separation of the character and the person are very clear.
And I can't do accents for shit, so I'm just having fun. I'm not actually
yeah.
I'm not actually criticizing. I can't do it.
We love the show, Ben. Yeah. We love listening to you. It's not it's just funny knowing you and knowing when like where the brain is coming from.
I mean, to compliment, because I'm 99% sure that's Jordan in our chat right now.
Probably.
Hi, Jordan. But yeah, not to compliment Jordan a whole lot what she does with Larry, but also I want to give a shout out to Imhotep Dan. Daniel, excuse me, to Daniel, because we have 2 Dans on our show, so we have to say Dan for the DM and Daniel for Imhotep, because he nails the Imhotep accent. But also every time when Aaron goes into Eric, the Phantom of the Opera, it's just like the way he does his inflections. It's just like, yeah, that is just like the most pompous a-hole you ever met, but you want to give him a big hug.
I'll be honest. I went from really not liking Eric in the beginning of the show to really liking him, but we got here.
He's MVP. The funny thing about Eric is that Eric will still be the Phantom, like in tone and inflection when he's just being himself.
Out of character.
And like he'll just carry that, but it's like it's not the reverse. He's not carrying the player into the character. He carries the character into the player. You're all doing a great job. You all should be very proud.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Enough about D and Dark, which is a fantastic show, and everybody should go listen to it. That is something I did. The other things I did, I watched King Kong, the original 1933 version.
Really?
Yeah, I did. I think you did it too, didn't you?
Kind of this morning.
You fell asleep a little.
A little bit.
We were recording a real score. Everyone knows that, like, coming down the pipeline, there will be a real score episode that is dedicated to King Kong from 1933. Our Mask of Zorro episode still has to come out before that, but it's been done. That movie is not as good as you might remember, friends. Just a fact of life. It's not terrible, and like it's certainly a technological and all kinds of other avenues impressive achievement for its time, but like there's a lot not good about that movie. And I'm not just talking about like the obvious misogyny and racism, but like there's very much, we kind of get into it in the episode. I look forward to everyone getting to hear it, but there's very much a like right time, right place for the moment kind of thing that makes King Kong a success. That isn't necessarily about the movie being like well made outside of like obviously the animation stuff for the monsters and everything. Like put that aside, not a lot of very great filmmaking on display in that movie, to be honest with you. But it is a landmark film, no doubts about it.
Mighty Joe Young is better.
It's really interesting for us. I look forward to you guys getting to hear our score discussion, but because we are focused on score, they re-recorded the score for that film about 30 years later. So like there is no way to listen to the original score as it was recorded that doesn't include as it sounds in the film, like with the dialogue and the sound effects. There is no version of that exists.
Like Star Wars all over again.
So it's very hard. So it's very hard. Like you have to like seek out a version that has been recorded in later years that is still like what he wrote out, but like re-recorded on better equipment to really hear like all the instrumentation. Like you just can't hear it in the movie.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Can I real quickly just mention one thing about the movie that I want to bring to this show, because I also brought it to the real score. It's
part of your week too, man.
So there's a moment when, because the love interest is between Anne and Jack, and there's a moment where John, he's credited as John. I hate it. So Jack is John, whatever. He's there and he's like, I love you, Anne, and there's no two ways about it. And Anne's response is, but Jack, you hate women. And that kills me.
His response is, yeah, but you're not women.
Burn it all down.
that line read killed me.
That sounds like something from like a comedy.
You know what's even more jarring about that is that screenplay is co-written by a woman at the time.
Oh,
like it's like, ooh, dang.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, I have one other thing to bring up in my week that is not like, like go check out our animation station talking about Star Wars Visions, like stuff I had to do that will come out at a later date. I watched Barbarian.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yes, I watched Barbarian, the film written and directed by Zach Krager of The Whitest Kids You Know. Believe the hype.
Yeah.
I highly encourage you to watch it, Brandon. Ben, I would like to watch it with you. Frankly, I'd like to watch it with both of you, but like Ben for sure, because like Ben, there are like 5 times in this movie where I think I know what the movie's about, and I am always wrong.
It was in my top 10 last year. Y'all wasn't lying. Wish you would have been there with me.
I want to watch it. I'll try to watch it soon because I do want to.
Well, I do need to go over to Spark's house this time so I can drop off his copies of Scream. So maybe we can make it into a movie night.
There you go.
Barbarian.
I would have a blast going through that ride with you. Okay, that's my week though. I'm done.
I'll go next. I did the thing he did. Oh, we watched Rebels. Talk about Rebels a little bit.
Oh yeah, we did watch Rebels. Sorry. Yes, we did watch Rebels. We are trying to start a rewatch in this house in anticipation of Ahsoka. So we watched the first 2 episodes.
Also because there's a podcast to listen to that's rewatching it.
That's also part of the reason.
They're the greatest alive.
Yes, some of the team from Waypoint, which we talked about last week.
Mm-hmm.
So More Civilized Aged, great podcast. Go check it out. That is a watch along style podcast where they've done Clone Wars and
Andor, all the movies.
They finished all Clone Wars, yeah?
No, up till they're doing chronological order basically. Up till season 5 where it got canceled.
That's where
now they're in like the movies.
Got it. Understood.
Yeah.
So that podcast is great, and so we were watching Rebels, and like the animation is sticky, but like it's nice to go back. I haven't seen this since it aired the first time, so really enjoying it.
Yeah. It definitely I love that the animation does get better. There are certain points where it's like, ooh man, you guys remember Reboot from like the late 90s? There are certain frames. It's not every frame. There are certain frames where it's like, oh, this is what year is this? Disney made this. But like the charm is there, and like it is like my favorite modern Star Wars things next to Last Jedi. So like, the story is already like, I already know like, oh yeah, the character stuff is already working for me immediately. So like,
right.
I'm back in already.
I will say like, I don't remember being overly, like I liked it, but I wasn't overly impressed with the first 2 episodes the first time they came out, but partially like knowing where things go and how characters turn out and stuff, I'm far more invested in the like, this is how it all began kind of feel now that I've already been through.
I think it's a good like 2-parter of like introducing your characters and like getting them to like each other and stuff. Yeah.
That canon reveal is still pretty cool.
Mm.
When he takes out his lightsaber for the first time.
Oh,
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Canon. Yeah.
I'm about to let the whole world in on the secret. Yeah.
That's so good. I'm still just stuck in Star Wars world. I've just played a lot of Survivor. I'm not going to talk about that because I'm still playing it. Y'all are playing it. I did start playing more other Star Wars games because I just can't get enough. I started playing the MMORPG, The Old Republic again. And that game came out in 2011, and it's still around despite it not being canon, but they're still releasing new story content. And that's just really cool that Disney didn't just put the kibosh on it because it makes a lot of money. That's why. Y'all, that game, it's made by BioWare, the guys who made Knights of the Old Republic, the original games on the Xbox. So, like, in terms of being an MMO, you guys know what an MMO is, World of Warcraft, all those other games, like you click and they attack and click and you have 1, 2, 3, 4 different like hotkeys and stuff. And there's like quests to do, side quests. But like the thing about the Old Republic that it is still like regarded as like one of the best MMOs is that it is all voice acted and it's just a video game. It is just like you're doing story quests and you're going to someone, you're having a conversation, full conversation, you're choosing dialogue. You can become good or bad. Like I chose to be a Sith Imperial agent. So I'm part of the ISB. So basically I made a Saz Ventress, but what if she was Daedra Miro? So like I'm infiltrating like a Hutt cartel to like take them down like for the Empire or whatever. And it's just like, man, this is good shit. Like the combat is old school MMO. So, I'm clicking 1, then clicking 3, and then clicking 2. So like, it's not exactly engaging, but it's a great podcast game. And boy, howdy, I love listening to podcasts. So that's me. Just Star Wars all day, every day.
Very cool. I'll go next because I'm sure Ben wants to talk about his vacation. King Kong, obviously, watch that. Grievous Sparks. I have been playing a lot of Jedi Survivor, which I will not talk about because I really can't say anything without spoiling it at this point. So, I in anticipation of the movie we were talking about today, I decided to go back and rewatch at least all the Guardians films, and I attempted to watch Infinity War, Endgame, and the holiday special. I didn't quite get through them all. I got to about halfway through Endgame, but love all those movies, obviously. But I will say, and because we reviewed it on this podcast, and it's not that I disliked the movie. Obviously, I really liked it. I was definitely the coldest on Guardians 2, I believe, when we did our review many, many, many years ago. Mm-hmm. And I want to make an amendment to that because that movie hits very differently after your father has passed away. Very differently. And I definitely see the beauty in the movie now. And I definitely kind of... I always held that the first Guardians film was my favorite of the 2 Guardians films, and now that has changed. It is definitely Guardians 2. That movie has immense imagination. It has beautiful character moments, things that still kind of... I'm still kind of like, I don't love how James Gunn writes Mantis in that movie. I don't love that Drax is laughing most of the movie, but all that was kind of shaded away for me to see what is really great about the movie, what is happening in the movie with Ego and with Yondu and with Quill and with Rocket and all that. And so like really just absorbed that in a much more emotional and personal way this time around. I really adored it.
I will say, as a person who has had Guardians 2 in the top 3 of the MCU since it came out, I've never begrudged you not liking it very much, or not liking it, I should say, as much as the original, and thinking it like it was like lesser for the reasons you felt, because everyone's entitled to their opinions. I'm very pleased that you have come over to this area of the decision on Guardians 2. When I saw your ratings change, I was like, oh, he did it. He's seen the vision.
I was definitely I have a rule for my letterbox. For anybody who gives a shit, my letterbox I have a rule. If it makes me cry, it is an automatic 5 stars. There's no 2 ways about it. There are obviously other ways to give me a 5 stars, but if it makes me cry, it is a 5-star movie because it made me feel the most pure emotion I can personally feel.
Gave you the feels,
and like it really like art is supposed to give you an emotional reaction, and if it gives me the strongest emotional reaction, I believe it deserves that 5-star rating. So I gave obviously Guardians 2 a 5-star rating because by the time the movie was over, oh my god, when the Ravagers show up at the end of that movie, holy shit. It's just I was gone.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, wonderful movie. So I'll talk. I didn't do a whole lot else because I watched Star Wars Visions. I watched King Kong. Most of what I did was for this podcast, but I did end up getting to listen to some more of my Doctor Who audio adventures. And I'll only mention them in a brief moment because I talk about them a lot, and there's really not a whole lot of new to say. I've listened to the David Tennant and Christopher Eccleston episodes, just the first one of each. Eccleston, really great to have him back as the Doctor. He's clearly
This is really new stuff too. The Eccleston stuff is within the last year and a half, right?
Just about 2 years, I believe. I think the first one came out during the pandemic. Ben over there, someone's smashing some plates. So Eccleston is really fun. I don't love the story that they wrote for him, which is kind of a bummer because I do really like him as the Doctor, and I feel very nostalgic listening to him be the Doctor again.
Sure.
Tennant, oh my god, it's like Tennant never left. He is so effortlessly his Doctor that the audio video doesn't matter. He when you hear him put on his British accent and put on that energy of being the Doctor, it is just like he never left.
It's not surprising that Tennant's great at it because Tennant has been doing audiobooks for all kinds of things for forever. So the fact that he could bring it in terms of Doctor Who is of course he could. Of course he could. Also, he's David Tennant. But
and it's just really fun to kind of go back to those two Doctors because those were where I started with Doctor Who. So it's very nice to hear them again and have new adventures with them. The first Eccleston, he's with no companion, and I think all of Eccleston's stuff is set before his season, so he has no companion at this point.
Well, it'd have to be, right?
But you can slide it in with Rose and have adventures in between episodes.
Isn't well, I guess. You'd have to bring Rose back.
Yeah.
And I don't know
Rose
if they're
would
willing,
have to be there.
I don't know if they're willing to do that, cross that line, I guess.
Yeah, you can't give him a new companion. He has to be, if he has a companion, he has to be with Rose.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's really no room in that season, where she went away from him for an extended time.
Yeah. Tennant, his first 3 adventures are with Donna, Catherine Tate. And, Donna's my favorite companion. It's really just great to get the band back together. They bounce off each other so well. They're so much fun to listen to. His second series of adventures is with Rose, though. And I'm so curious because I think that's the only time that Billie Piper came back to do Big Finish. So I'm so curious to know if she actually did or if they had a voice alike.
Sure.
Okay, so the last thing I want to say about that is I also listened to the first episode of Master. So it's Master with an exclamation point. There's apparently Master with a period, different show. So this is Master exclamation point, which is actually set after one of the 41 episodes of the River Song Diaries, which is an insane amount of episodes dedicated to this character.
I think it's warranted because I always feel like the show shortchanged what River Song could be.
Yeah, 100%.
I think even the amount of audio adventures can't fix the fact that they were oh yeah, and she could have a bunch of regeneration, so she could have a really long timeline in interweaving the stories. JK, she just immediately changes into the one
Yeah.
But I'm glad they fleshed it out outside of the show canon because that's a character that desperately needs it.
She goes through all the doctors, all the living doctors, I should say, because her adventures, the reason why there are so many is there are 4 each and every 4 has so it's 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. And then when we get to the next one after 4, she actually encounters multiple versions of the Master. So they switched it up a bit. And so what I'm talking about is Eric Roberts, starring Eric Roberts, who played the Master in Paul McGann's movie.
Right.
He's I guess officially called the Master Bruce because his character's name was Bruce.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, that movie starts. The Master is killed. He becomes a snake. He becomes like a liquid snake. He possesses this dude named Bruce. He becomes the Master, and then he is thrown into the time vortex. That's the whole movie. There you go. Still not a bad movie, honestly. And this picks up after it's revealed that he's still in the time vortex within the TARDIS, which was done in Diary of River Song. and he is manipulating a girl outside in the 23rd century to reconstitute his body so that he can be free of the time vortex.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric Roberts is deliciously evil as the Master. He plays the Master as one who's on borrowed time, because he is like, this body was never meant to last. This isn't a proper body for him. This is something that he's possessing, and he just kind of has like this maniacalness to the Master that's kind of, it's so far removed from where we'll see him with John Sim, but also not quite where we saw him prior with the Seventh Doctor's Master. He's this kind of deliciously like reveling in being evil. Like, I love being the Master. I love manipulating people. This is what I love, and he's got such a delicious laugh. So it was very fun to listen to him be that Master. I kind of got nostalgic for it because I've been listening to all the Eighth Doctor adventures, and I'm like, he never sees his Doctor again. He never sees his Master again. Like, I want to listen to what he did, and so I did that. There's apparently longer. Like, he meets Missy at one point, which is I'm interested in hearing. But yeah, really fun. It's just such a cool time just to follow this person who is going to destroy the world, and just kind of revel in it. I really liked it. I thoroughly enjoyed myself with it.
Nice.
That's my week.
Great.
Ben, talk about your vacation.
Yeah, so obviously I was gone for 2 weeks or 3 weeks from the show. I was off work for 2.5 because apparently the universe loves to throw fun practical jokes at me and make me get sick before a big vacation again.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah. Luckily I had plenty of time to recover. It wasn't COVID this time. It was just a regular common cold. But still, it was just it got me 3 extra days off work, which was nice. But at the same time, it was just one of those things where I'm in bed or I'm back home just popping zinc and elderberry gummies like Tic Tacs because I'm just trying to feel better for my trip. The trip itself was fantastic. If you follow me on Instagram, I've been posting a bunch of photos and a bunch of things I did over there. Some of the highlights was obviously ziplining through North Shore, Oahu, which was absolutely stunning, beautiful. I kayaked with sea turtles. We were kayaking. So we went there for my fiance's best friend's wedding. And the wedding venue was up in Turtle Bay, which is up in North Shore, which is this big, giant resort. And in that resort, they have an area that's essentially a sanctuary for sea turtles. And we're able to kayak there, and they are very specific. They tell us, is like, hey, you can look at the sea turtles, you can kayak them. If they come up to you, just stay. Just if they touch you, that's cool. You can't touch them because that's against Hawaiian law.
Stripper rules.
Yeah. And it was just absolutely cool because a bunch of sea turtles were coming up, gulping for air. They're just swimming around with us. One got right next to my fiance's kayak, and it was absolutely stunning. And even when we flew into Hawaii, the trip getting to the island wasn't bad. It was just one of those things where it's like there was a delay for us getting on the plane. There was a delay getting his taxi. There was a long line for our rental car. And of course, the place we did our rental car had the longest line. Everyone else was a walk up. It was just one of those things. But the other thing I really want to talk about, besides the natural beauty of the island, and I talked a little bit about this with Sparks when I saw him on Thursday at Sea Guardians, was the food was phenomenal. I mean, I am still dreaming about the food in Hawaii, and I've been home for a little under a week, and I'm still just like, man, I want to go back to the food trucks that they have. There's like this grocery store chain there called Foodland, and our first night there, we got a poke bowl from them, and we were thinking, okay, it's grocery store food. I mean, it's probably going to be good, but it's not going to be as good as you think it was. No, it was amazing. That could also be the fact that we were just super hungry. We were tired. We finally got something to eat. But the second we popped that fish in our mouths, oh my God, it was one of the best things we've eaten in our entire lives.
Love to hear it.
Yeah, food. I mean, there was like so many, even like the stuff that we say that was like disappointing. It wasn't disappointing. We were not disappointed by a single meal we had when we were in Hawaii. even the McDonald's we went through wasn't that bad. It was still pretty damn good. I mean, it's McDonald's, but that's a low bar to go. That's a low bar to jump over. But yeah, we are still dreaming. We are still dreaming about the food in Hawaii.
Grayson live in the chat, Ben.
Hey Grayson. He said, let's see. Live show hoedown. What?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm just gonna say real quickly, we see you, Grayson. We see you.
Yeah. We see you.
He does not know what that means.
I know what that means.
I don't.
Grayson wasn't on. Grayson didn't show up on the live shows when you weren't here.
Yeah. Yeah, that just went.
I'm only kidding.
That just went.
To be fair, one of them was on a Tuesday.
That is true. That is true.
Thank you for being here, Grayson. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm only kidding, Mitty.
Yeah.
Ben.
Yeah, everything about Hawaii was amazing. Like nothing, even just driving and getting around the island. One thing I definitely noticed, because this was the first time. Last time I went to Hawaii, I was a passenger. I didn't drive. I hardly drove at all. Or if I did drive, it was for a very short distance and for a very short amount of time. And since I drove Fanny and I throughout the entire island, I noticed that I never went higher than 55 miles an hour on the freeway and on the regular roads. Like the highest speed limit sign I saw was for 60 miles an hour. Everyone on the island is just more relaxed, more chill. It doesn't matter. The only time where people are like, we gotta go is in Honolulu. And that's like the biggest city on the island. Everywhere else, even outside, just like in the outskirts in Pearl City, which is where Pearl Harbor is, still relaxed. That's fine. We'll get there when we get there. No worries. No trouble. Nice. No one's zooming down the freeway at 90 miles an hour. Everyone's just like, yeah, let's just chill. Let's just coast on through. And when we come back to Los Angeles, we're driving from LAX to our house, and I just look over and I see we're going 80. I'm like, ooh, this is I don't like this anymore, because when you
I feel unsafe. I need an adult.
Too fast.
Even when I came back, I went to a convention. I was on the freeway. And I was going pretty fast myself with the flow of traffic. I'm like, man, obviously it's a different vibe, because one, you're on an island relaxing, and here in the mainland, it's just bustling, busy, and go go go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one. It was amazing. I can't praise the island enough. I can't praise the area enough, just because every day when we woke up, even when it was overcast and cloudy, the water was still amazing. It was just a great place to be. And the whole time when we were there, multiple times when we were there, my fiance and I were like, we just don't want to go back. We just don't want to go back to the mainland. I mean, obviously we have to. But it was definitely something that we needed, because I pretty much unplugged. I wasn't doing a whole lot on social media. I would maybe check Twitter and Instagram every once in a while before I would go to bed. But besides that, it was just nice to essentially just unplug and go swim. Swimming and just being on the island and relaxing was something I needed.
That's important.
And I'm constantly trying to mentally prepare myself for the mental hellscape that I'm going to be in tomorrow when I go to work.
Yeah.
But besides going to Hawaii and besides that trip, I did do something else, video game related. When I came back, I went to SoCal Gaming Expo 2023. It happened this past weekend, and I went there to make some good connections, get my business card. I got some good pause menus lined up. And also, I finally got some PS3 games that I've been wanting to
Oh my god, is this show and tell?
Yeah, show and tell.
Oh yeah.
Because Brandon, you're going to love these games, because there are two games that you are a huge fan of, and you actually got me onto them, wanting to buy them and play them. They are Transformers.
Oh yeah, those are good games.
Yeah, War and Fall for Cybertron. I had these on my Xbox 360. I don't have an Xbox anymore, so I finally got these two amazing titles for the PS3, because I have a PS3 now. So, yay.
Love it.
Also, I got another cool video game reference book, which has almost every console ever created, including PCs, which is really cool. So yeah, it was fun to go to a convention. It was just fun to walk around and talk to people. I was thinking about going again today, but decided against it because of other things. But it was just fun to go to a video game convention again. And and also for this one, They also added a few arcade machines. They had some consoles set up so people could play them, but it was a lot smaller scale than the one in Portland, obviously. So you had to wait around and wait for a kid to get game over so they can get up and walk away and you can take their spot. But other than that, it was I didn't stay there the whole time, but it was still just nice to be back in an area with a bunch of video game nerds and looking at cool and hunting for games which was fun. But
very quiet. I'm hunting video games.
Pretty much, yeah. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I had a good, nice, relaxing vacation. Even when I came back this past few days, it's just been nice and chill here at the house. It's just been nice, and I don't want to go back to work tomorrow.
Sorry, buddy. I'm glad you had a good time, though.
What's up, Swerve?
Yeah.
Happy for you, Ben. I realized I forgot something in my week. Can I bring it up now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Teacher. Okay. Yeah. So this week, Fortnite started a Star Wars event.
That's true. We all
based
did that.
around the prequels, and I definitely want to highlight it because man, Fortnite just keeps dropping great stuff. So there's clones. They've dropped clone troopers into the game. They have very many styles. There's the standard form. There's the Coruscant guard. There's the 501st. There's Obi-Wan's guys.
Yeah, you got Wolves. You got Ahsoka's. You got
Ahsoka's team.
You got to earn those.
Darth Maul, Anakin, Padme, all looking great.
Maul looking hot.
Dropped in. But the more important thing than just like new skins and that they look good is that during this event, they are giving you the ability to like learn to use the Force from one of the people. And so you can learn from Obi-Wan or Anakin or Darth Maul on the map. And when you do that, you get a lightsaber and Force abilities and Force movement. And like Ryan has said many times that like Fortnite has become just like a very good movement game. And this is very true. Like the movement in this is stunning. Brandon, your like contemporary comparison for this would be Battlefront 2.
It's so much better.
Moving with the Force abilities in this game is so good and so much better. And so like we're just like all going and getting our Force stuff right away, and in a team with like our friend Pi, and we unfortunately didn't get to play with Ben, but Ben has played this stuff. You get like an ability, and so like we've all got our Force abilities, and we're just like Force pulling, Force pushing, slashing with the lightsaber once we bring them into us. Like
there was one moment when we were just like ganking fools, and I was like, this is pretty sick.
Yeah.
This is pretty sick.
That's
a damn good game.
You guys would be happy to know that I have also I did come back, and last night I was playing Fortnite to the wee hours of the morning because I earned Eren Yeager.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they're also doing an Attack on Titan. You can earn the main character of Attack on Titan, so I earned him and all of his stuff. And also, I was this close to getting a victory royale, and it was in and it was between me and another person who had a lightsaber, and we straight up had a lightsaber duel.
Yep.
I lost. Winner got the victory royale, so I'm like, damn it. But yeah, I've also been loving and playing the Fortnite Star Wars stuff.
We played a little bit together.
Yeah.
A little bit.
It's a ton of fun. I'm really happy for this event, and I want to encourage Brandon to join us so we can 4-player squad up, get Brandon into Fortnite. We're gonna do the Force, Brandon. We're gonna use the Force together. All 4 of us.
Well, eventually you got to whittle me down, right?
Do it.
Eventually, hopefully.
This is the way.
Playing games with your friends, how bad can it be?
Do it.
Okay. Shall we go into our bread and butter?
Absolutely.
Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. We got some things to talk about. Okay, so first we're going to talk about, look, this is big. The biggest thing that happened in years. The Writers Guild of America has gone on strike.
Yeah. Whoop, whoop.
First strike in 15 years. We certainly saw the writing on the wall. Many people saw the writing on the wall. This was coming. And I have a lot on this. So what I want to do this a little bit differently than we normally do our news segments. I just want to talk about it, and I'll refer to the notes as we get to this point. So, writer strike happened. What do we think?
Yeah. Do you have any real quick? Do you just have any like really broad points you think we should just start with, just for like the audience to
because
know,
obviously we want
like what's going on, but like before we get in.
Okay, good point. I'll start with this. Okay, so I said already, this is the first strike in 15 years. The last strike was 2007, 2008. We all remember that. That was the last strike. But Grayson, sorry. Got me. I looked away and Brandon got all buttery smooth with the voice.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right. This strike comes after an intense negotiation process with the AMPTP, which is the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Productions. This is that's Sony, that's Amazon, that's Universal, that's Warner Bros. All the big studios and networks. That's what they are.
Mm-hmm.
They failed to meet the demands of what the WGA was putting down. They said, this is what we want. This is what we want for our new contract negotiations. Contract negotiations happen once every 3 years with many unions. And the writer's strike was coming up. The Writers Guild of America's contract negotiation was coming up. And they presented what I believe, what everybody believes, all the right people believe, is very fair demands.
Right.
And they didn't. The responses were just not good. They were either they were just not what the Writers Guild was going to accept, or I wrote this one down because the Writers Guild put up a list of the demands and a list of what this group came back with. Highly recommend it. Again, that's linked below.
Yep.
They would, and many times it's their rejected our proposal, refused to make a counter.
Yes.
So this was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not going to end anytime soon. And it's been really, again, being in like the digital age where we're watching this all live, on Twitter and whatnot. These are all people who like. The best sign I saw was, oh, you don't want me to write? You know how easy that is? And I thought that was a really funny one of like, yo, man, I love doing this for a job, but like I don't have to write? Easy money. Writing's super hard. I'm not worried about the future, like next year's movies, because guess what? Like there are so many movies and TV shows and comics and books that I can read or watch or listen to that I haven't yet. So like, right. I'm not worrying about the movies that are supposed to come out. I don't care about that. I care about the people who should get paid. Yeah. All they're asking for, which I guess would sound like a lot when you're talking about $1 billion industry, is 2%. They want 2% of profits of overall 2% of 100 to spread between like the 12,000 guild members, which sounds like a lot. But again, like, paying it over a year, like it's not really that much. They're not asking for $1 million.
Yeah. So what you just said there, the 2% thing, is 2% of all residuals.
Residuals, yeah.
Because streaming specifically has no residuals. They, I said this was coming because the 2007-2008 writer's strike, when that came to an end, the Writers Guild of America got really screwed when it came to streaming, because at that point it was a very new service, and studios were able to say, we just don't know where this is going to go. We can't really negotiate.
Well, these rules were really based around, at the time, YouTube. YouTube was like the idea of streaming, like those kinds of digital services, more than it was like what Netflix became, what Prime Video and Disney Plus and all that was born out of. It wasn't thinking about that as much when they were doing that back then.
Right. And there's a joke in the second 2 seasons of Arrested Development, the last 2 seasons of Arrested Development, where Ron Howard says something about like, oh yeah, streaming has no residuals. Isn't that so funny? But the thing is like streaming, we've seen this before. We know this. Streaming services don't release viewing data. They just don't. And
unless it's the highest viewed thing of all time, like Netflix says every single week.
Right, exactly. Well, this is Red Notice, which is the most viewed thing in the whole world.
Yeah.
So they also want that. Like they also want streaming services to release viewing data, because they know that that's important. There's a reason why they're not releasing the viewing data, because they can claim that these services aren't making any money. One of the reasons why they came back with what they did is to say, streaming services have made us broke. That's not the case. Just this year, HBO Max is due to make $50 million in profit.
Right.
What's the harm in giving writers 2% of that?
Well, because they're feigning poverty in the claim on the streaming services, because they want to keep not only like the same salary pay for all the higher level people. They want those pays to go up.
Yes.
Brandon, I think you retweeted it, but also I want to talk about Anna Conover's appearance when he was on CNN for a hot second. That
Yeah, great
this
moment.
clip has been making around it's been making around on
He's
social
great.
media, where he was talking about how David Zaslav's the president and CEO of Warner Bros. Discovery, the parent company of CNN, and a bunch of other head honchos have their salaries that go like $250 million or $50 million, just a whole bunch of money that writers are like, we just want that, but we're going to distribute that amongst ourselves.
Right.
And even the anchor was like, oh, you ruined everything, so you probably just ruined my career by talking about that. It's like,
She'll be fine.
yeah, she'll be fine. But at the same time, just like every time when you hear a writer strike, and we hear, because unfortunately, if people at that high the corporate level, of course they just want their profits to go up. They just want their numbers to go up. Even I don't know if this is a good analogy, but if hearing that kind of made me think of the people at my own job, because they are also, I mean, we're not in a strike or anything like that, but unfortunately there are some supervisors and some managers where they think, oh, we need less people, but we need them to do more.
Yeah.
And we're constantly telling them, no, you can't.
It's
Can't
because-
make these.
It's because the people at the top only care about making more money, making more profit. I tweeted this one that, and I'm not saying your supervisors are billionaires, but billionaires specifically, and going back to the studios, the people who run these studios are billionaires and tech bros and tech companies and all this shit, things like that. People make a lot of money. People who are fundamentally divorced from reality, they do not live in the same reality that we do.
Yeah.
Nope.
Right. And like, to reiterate just some points that are relevant, like we talked last week, Ben, you might not have listened to it, but like when we talked about the layoffs with Vice, Waypoint, all that kind of stuff, like these systems are so baked into the idea that like limitless exponential growth is possible, but that is finite. It's not real. That's not a sustainable business model. Like the key point in that term is sustainable. So like the fact that they are building these whole ideas of like how people can profit and where the profits are distributed based off of knowledge that like every year the number will go up is not realistic. At a certain point, the number bottoms out. And like all that really matters at that point is being sustainable and distributing the wealth properly.
Yeah.
But like, that's not the system that they want to function in, because this is America, and America is a labor system that was first started with slavery and then evolved into indentured servitude and now prison labor. And so like whatever is the cheapest and easiest way to have more labor with little to no cost for the higher tier is what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And like that's constantly what our system has fed into, and that's why like this is so important. But like it's going to be, I don't think like it's just going to be a big moment for the entertainment industry. I think like this is the difference for this writer strike compared to the one that we had in 2007 is like we were aware of that, but we're very like all of these writers are on social media. All these writers are engaged in some way or another in talking with their space. So much of what's happening is being directly communicated to an audience that is actually paying attention to it. There's so much more interconnectivity between audience and creatives. And so there's a lot more of a knowledge base for like how this is going to go, why this is happening, what it means. And their, efforts here are going to like ripple out, not just through the industry itself, but into other industries as well, where they're going to be like, look at that union, look how that union's fighting for what they need. Other unions and other industries are going to look to it too.
Yeah. Many unions, real quickly, before I get to Dan's comment, because I don't want to bring it up, many unions in the entertainment industry have a no strike clause. For example, the animation guild said that people have been saying that they should go on strike. And Phineas and Ferb was the most recent one that got a lot of attention because that writer's room started. They're under a different union, and therefore cannot strike because many unions have no strike clauses. So that something like this doesn't happen. So that the entertainment industry just doesn't come to a screeching halt because everyone just said F it.
Yeah,
I know, Ben, you're about to say that yours does too. My partner's does. I'm sure Sparks's does.
Yep, we have a no strike clause. It's awful.
Yeah, but which is why the strike couldn't happen until the negotiations, which is why the contract was no longer in effect at May 1st at midnight, right? And then it went, and then they were able to strike because that's part of the context. So what to Sparks' point is we could see many other unions take this opportunity as their contracts start to run up to go on strike.
Yeah. The momentum in the movement is like there right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
To bring up Dan's comment, I love Cody Johnson. I haven't watched that specifically that segment. But yeah, like I don't understand. Like when you have $700 million, why do you need more?
Right.
It's just one of those things where I'm just like, can't you throw these poor people a bone, rich man? Like it's just, it's like, oh, shut him up, give him $1. You know, here's tickets for a Star Wars. Like it just seems like an easy like.
Well, it's the line.
Got the money.
It's the line in Arrested Development. It's a banana, Michael. How much could it cost? $2?
Yeah. There's always money in the banana stand. Yeah, man. It's gonna be a long process, and like it is gonna be interesting to see because I think this is worse than like the last strike because like there's like so much more at stake with just how big the digital like landscape is.
So I will take that opportunity to go into what some of the demands were. I have written them down. I do want us to go through them. So obviously they demand fair wages. Many writers cannot make rent. Many writers cannot fundamentally support themselves on the wages they get. It doesn't matter if you're a staff writer or a showrunner. You're just not getting the money that you deserve.
And part of this is not having enough consistency in your hiring contract, and part of this is also just low wages. So it varies on the circumstances, but yes.
So there's also strict guidelines. One of the biggest reasons why the strike is happening is because they want a strict guidelines on AI. AI is getting pretty prevalent out there. We talked about it last week. ChatGPT. Well, there was even an article that came out post-strike where studios were like, we're going to have ChatGPT write adaptations of books, and then we'll have writers write them we'll have writers fix them when the strike is over. No. So obviously the Writers Guild knew that was important. And so they wanted a guarantee that artificial intelligence will not be used for screenwriting.
Yeah.
And they refused the offer.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
That's not true. They countered with let's have a meeting once a year about AI.
Right.
So
which, by the way, Adam Conover also did a bit like, here's how that meeting would go. So that AI is getting real good, right? Right. All right. See you next year. What is that?
Yeah. You played me, Sparks, like a ChatGPT written like script, and it was just awful.
Oh yeah.
It was just awful. So like I talked to him about this, but like I'm not like there are going to be AI movies come out and AI TV shows, whatever. But like just like those NFT TV shows and movies, they're not going to do well. They're going to bomb. They're going to be awful. No one with any intelligence is going to watch it and go, "That's pretty good," because you just listen to it and you just hear how soulless it is.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think
Like they're not going to make any money if they try.
Not to counter, but to extenuate the point. The only time where ChatGPT made a funny episode was when South Park parodied, or when South Park made fun of them. Because if you watch that episode of South Park, they do technically credit ChatGPT and because it was Trey Parker and ChatGPT who wrote the episode. But it was an episode about how AI is screwing stuff up and how you get disconnected from things. And
there's also someone kind of leaked what was in a Netflix contract recently for an actor was that they would be able to use that person's likeness indefinitely for all time and all throughout the universe. This is actual wording through AI usage, and that's something that the Actors Guild of America is going to need to really shut down.
Oh yeah. Definitely. But to really throw my 2 cents on the whole AI bit, I'm like, get that shit out of here.
Yeah, it's not. No. It's the guarantee. It's what the Writers Guild of America's terms were the guarantee that people weren't going to lose jobs to this. And if you hold yearly meetings, you can still fire someone in favor of a ChatGPT script, whether or not it's going to make money or not.
So like technology taking over jobs is not a new thing, right? Like in the manufacturing industry or the industrial industry, like I understand a robot taking over someone's job. That sucks, yes, but I understand that. Art is different. you cannot robots like as much as like I want robots to have sentience and AI and like I want like a beautiful future, not a scary Westworld future. But like no matter how well you put into an algorithm something, it is not going to put out something that a human being, even a bad like I'm not a great artist, but at least mine will be like, oh, I know a person did that. And like you could tell I'll have the right fingers and it won't look like a monster. Well, it'll probably still look like a monster, but it'll look like a human monster, not a digital monster.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. Like people can always tell. At least people who are into art. Obviously, there's regular folks who like look at a AI generated picture and like, wow, that looks like real people. Like, sure, like, but
and
like,
they don't see the third leg coming out of
yeah,
somewhere.
they don't see the third leg or like the extra set of nostrils or whatever.
Yeah.
So like the fact that they want to rely on it, it's like I'm not surprised because like people upstairs are like stupid, but like with art, like you can try, buddy. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work.
Well, and like, and the other thing is that like this is important for them to establish now because like AI will get better. I'm not saying that it'll ever be able to fully supplant art, but like they can turn out just bullshit for bullshit's sake on AI. They can, and like it will eventually be there. But they have to set the terms now to say like AI could maybe become a tool down the road, just as Dan is bringing up in the chat. But like, that will never be allowed to be a replacement. Like they've clearly have, because of the way that this has all shaken out, they clearly have to make that stance now and say like, this can't be a full out and out replacement. It just can't be. And you have to fight for that in your contracts because like to your point, like, if they don't hold the line on this and they relent and like, yes, they make AI stuff and it's not received well, it doesn't change the fact that like certain projects, they have no power to shut AI out of replacing them on projects, regardless of like the quality level of what they expect to have out. It's all about like actually securing jobs and like making sure that, as many have pointed out, writing isn't turned into a gig economy.
Yeah.
Right. So to kind of bring this back, we talked about more transparency from streaming numbers. Yes, we talked about that already. But yeah, one of the things that they're really fighting against when you look at all of this is that these tech studios, these Amazons, these Netflixes, these Quibi's not around anymore. But like, you know, all those kind of streaming services, they look at writers as people in the gig economy, as Uber drivers for writing, and that's what the Writers Guild of America is fundamentally fighting against in this strike. These are not gig workers; these are people whose livelihood is tied to this job.
Right. Go ahead and bring up Dan's point real quick before we get too far away from it about AI being used as a tool.
So the real shame is that it can be such a valuable tool. It's just something we really need to get ahead of in order to make proper use of it while mitigating the possible damage it can cause. Yes.
Yeah, and that's what AI should be as far as like mixed with art going forward. Like AI is going to improve. Those things can be useful tools. There are purposes that all of these things we've talked about, like where they can be utilized.
There's tons of AI shit in like special effects that like nobody talks about because it's not the same thing as like replacing artists. It's helping an artist.
Right. Yeah. And like there is a difference. And like even in writing that can functionally exist where AI is assisting you to write something rather than like singularly creating it.
Yeah.
Anyway, real quickly on the VFX thing, they got to unionize. They got to do this.
Yeah.
Speaking about how people treating them as gig workers.
Yeah.
So the union also wants TV shows to staff a certain number of writers for a period of time and to end the practice of mini rooms. Mini rooms, just so you guys know, is the process that circumvented many WGA protections to make us overworked and understaffed system. Basically, it is people who are working on a show for about a year before it's even greenlit. It's like 4 people, and then the show is greenlit, and then they fire 3 of them, and only 1 of them sticks on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a mini room is, and they want to end this practice because this got really popular during COVID. With like Zoom meetings and things like that. And the other thing is they want a path. They want to rebuild the path from assistant to writer. with the number of with many streaming shows going under 10 episodes for seasons, you only get 1 or 2 writers and maybe an assistant, but that assistant can never work its way up into the thing because of also a problem that you're trying to get rid of, which is an exclusivity deal, where even if your show is done, you cannot take another job until that show is released.
Right.
That's wild.
Which can really trap people in, especially with how they'll put delays on
with the
schedules
pandemic,
and things like that.
Man.
Right. And that's actually a holdover deal from when most TV shows were network based with 22 episodes, and you were still writing those shows when that show was airing.
Right.
That is no longer the case anymore.
Right. This is very much, like new rules have to be set up because it's a whole new field.
Yeah. Yeah. And so rebuilding that kind of assistant to writer pipeline, making rooms with a minimum number of staff writers, making sure that showrunners get paid what they're worth, and specifically what the WGA, what I'm really happy with the WGA wants to emphasize is that because of the system, people can't work their way up in the ranks anymore, and we want to fix that. We want that to be the case again.
Mm-hmm.
Because you no longer, because in a network show, an assistant could pitch an episode, write that episode, and then the next season they're staff. That's not the way it works anymore.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's pretty much it. If you want to know more, I'm sure we'll keep talking about this. There's more that we'll talk about with this, but if you want to know more about the demands, about more about the counter proposals, it's linked below. Please check it out.
I think like the important emphasis, like at least for where I know all of our stances are, is just like, yes, we love the Rings of Power and other content like it and the Marvel products and all that stuff. We really enjoy those.
Andor's another one doing
Andor.
I got it.
And it's tough to see these things affected by this and like know that they might not be as great as they could have been otherwise. But it's not more important than the rights of the laborers who are making the content for us.
Sure.
So in response to this, as Sparks and Ryan were talking about, just to kind of give more context there, many things have shut down. Most notably, all the late night shows shut down. I think all of them, most of them at least, a lot of them.
I think most of them, yeah.
Yeah, shut down completely. Like, we're not coming back until the writer strike is resolved. We believe that this is a fair fight.
James Corden probably still would have been going, but he bowed out entirely, so he was able to dodge that.
Thank God.
Thank goodness.
Wait, so is James Corden like done?
He's retired.
Final week. Yeah,
he's done.
Yeah.
No wonder Will Ferrell destroyed his desk, because there was a clip of that going around. I was like, what happened?
He'd be doing his sidewalk Broadway, his crosswalk Broadway while the writer strike is happening in front of CBS.
Lord.
All right. Anyway, so also big deal. SNL shut down. Just like, hey, we're not
Those
going.
are all writers. They get it.
They write it weekly. They have to.
Yeah.
Most productions have shut down. Most big productions, such as Stranger Things, released I think yesterday that they shutting down completely.
That's a big one because that's like Netflix's biggest property. That's a pretty good sign. That's great.
They definitely right now Netflix has been grabbed by the balls. I'll buy that one.
Oh yeah.
Blade shut down pre-production, is not going to go forward again until the writer strike is over.
Thank God, because literally last week they just announced the new writer, and I would hate it if like, come on.
That's what we were saying. Like, oh yeah, he's working on this script at the moment.
Yeah.
Is it midnight yet?
for a day? Yeah.
The community movie will also probably be delayed. That's fine. I can wait.
Yeah.
I've waited this long, baby.
I was gonna say, yeah, already.
However, some haven't shut down. House of the Dragons is probably the big one. They are just going to continue. They have many months of filming left, and they're just going to continue as if nothing happened. The Rings of Power, as Sparks mentioned, is continuing. But there is some context to that I think is kind of important, and that is that the writers extensively worked on those scripts to make sure that they can finish up what is basically just 2 more weeks of filming.
Right. It's just tough because you don't have your showrunners there to steer the ship anymore.
Luckily, if it is so close to being done, hopefully it won't impact it a lot.
Yeah. So it really feels like, those showrunners, they knew this was coming, and they were like, we want to get our show in the best shape possible to finish filming. Right. And it sounds like they did.
Yeah.
Andor is going to keep going. But Tony Gilroy is on set, however, and this is important because I'm going to talk a little bit about this. He is on set as a producer, not a writer.
Right.
I read an article. He's also still doing casting stuff and music stuff.
Yeah.
He's doing everything except writing stuff. And I'm like, all right, man, whatever you gotta do.
This is why it's important to bring up Andor, is because Disney is demanding that showrunners, quote, showrunners, still perform their hyphenated duties while this strike is going on. Basically, if you're a showrunner, you also are like showrunner, executive producer, showrunner, whatever. Disney is legally expecting you to do the hyphenated part, not be the showrunner part. Now, this is interesting for two reasons, and one of them, the second one is because it's a loophole, but the first one is Disney doesn't like using the term showrunner. They use head writer to get around giving these writers showrunner wages.
Right.
I think maybe because Tony Gilroy is like, that dude's like old Hollywood. That dude's like a real ass, like, no offense to anybody else who's made these shows, but like that's a dude, like, he's a big movie man. So maybe he was able to get the big showrunner staple. Because he kind of is, like, he's writing them and he's directing, like, he kind of is like the guy.
Well, no, they're using this. So this was released in a letter to showrunners. So this was not in response to Tony Gilroy. This was just a letter that's kind of related to what Tony Gilroy is doing.
Yeah.
He is. So what this letter is stating is basically I believe it is trying to get around this strike by saying, and they're using showrunner to, I don't know, condescend. Because, like, frankly, like, again, we've talked about this before. They prefer the term head writer. There are no showrunners to these Marvel shows. There's only head writers, and that's not a term. And that's a term to get out of giving people the money they deserve for running these shows. Yeah. And it's kind of slimy to all of a sudden throw out the term showrunner.
Yeah, sure, yeah,
yeah. Real quickly, the WGA is pretty adamant that they cannot take legal action on this. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to imagine, like, man, when you're so deep into production on a big show like Andor, like, I'm sure, like, if he's like, I'll do what I have to do to keep the show running. Like, I don't want to stop the show. Like, I'm sure that's so hard. Like, as opposed to being so close to finishing or being really early, they are deep in the middle of production. And I have to imagine, like, that's a tough decision to make as the leader of that crew.
Oh, one of the demands, by the way, just in response to that, one of the demands is that on-set producing duties, on-set training for writers has to be required at contracts. And that's something that kind of went away. And so what, in the House of the Dragon thing is, like, losing your on-set writers means you can't course correct should something go wrong.
Yeah, and specifically with, like, with, like, super heavy, like, dialogue shows like House of the Dragon, where, like, dialogue is, like, the most important thing, and, like, having crisp scripts is important. Yeah. Not having your writers there is a bit of a whammy. So that is a little troubling.
And, like, it's tough too, because especially with a show like House of the Dragon, like, you've got all this location stuff going on, things that are already, like, Rings of Power falls under this, so does Andor, but, like, House of the Dragon maybe, like, is in the most difficult position with it right now, because they'll have, like, invested all their scheduling, timing, and everything to make that show pop off the way it's supposed to, and you kind of have to weigh your what are your advantages, what are your cons, depending on where you're at in your scripting process. And, like, I don't envy them having to make that choice. Like, there's what are the odds that if we hold back, we're not going to get to make the show the way we're supposed to. Yeah. And, like, which version is the worst outcome and that kind of thing. And you have to make those choices. And, like, I don't envy that, but, like, it's totally right for the strike to be happening regardless. Yeah. It's disappointing that Bob Iger isn't out front on the Disney stuff, like, saying, like, while we disagree, I support the writers, like, willingness to fight for what they believe is right, and, like, hopefully we can come to terms on something. Like, the fact that he's not spinning that kind of angle of
narrative
of the Bob Igerism of, like, the Disney thing of, like, we'll I do have faith that eventually we'll find the way to come together where Bob Iger comes out well, he's the least asshole-ish of the CEOs going on right now.
Yeah, even Zaslav had a quote like, the writers have every right to fight what they believe in. I believe they'll come back though because they just want to work.
Because they love working.
They love working.
Man, yeah, he's a piece of shit. He's so full of it. But the thing is, like, it's going to be very interesting watching how this all spills out, because the first one to come out and say, like, you know what the writers are fighting for, totally deserved. I agree with them. They're going to undercut all the others hardcore. Especially if it's one of the bigger names, like Zaslav or Iger, but like any of them. If the head of Netflix comes out and says, you know what, like, obviously because they got Stranger Things by the balls, but like if they come out and say, yeah, you know, the writers have a point and it is time to like change it up, like all of a sudden the whole conversation.
Absolutely. The first person to knock a domino over, it's like, we got that first domino, it's over.
Yeah,
it'll happen. It's got to happen.
And it's going to make like the others will have to scramble fast to agree or disagree, because like it's going to hang everything in the lurch about how people support.
Because what's going to happen? Hollywood doesn't have writers anymore. That's not something that can happen. They got to get that shit fixed.
The thing is, like, this strike is going to go on for a while, because the WGA, the current people who run the WGA, are committed to these, and everyone who's read them thinks they're a completely fair deal.
Right.
This is completely reasonable. If the AMPTI or whatever it's called, AMPTP, if it's just going to be a waiting game, like most strikes really are, it's a waiting game between the union and the other people to see who blinks first. What we're going to see is probably the WGA standing their ground for a lot longer than the AMPTP is willing to wait. And the reason is because the WGA feels this time, and I'm not saying they didn't feel as strongly in 2007, 2008, but especially this time, people's livelihoods are actually on the line this time. Like this is dangerous.
No, I think like no, it's very true, because like we are on the point again, like this isn't just happening in the entertainment industry, but we are on the point where like, you know, just this is a response, like in general, like the capitalist system of our country is butting up against the idea of like the wage gap and the discrepancy between the lower class and the upper class is just so, even the middle class and the upper class has become so vast. Like it's almost insurmountable now without actual full-blown change. It has created, like they are like far and away going beyond in terms of leaving us behind, because inflation is striking. The pandemic is still something businesses are recovering from. And living wages were just impossible even before that. And then even when a lot of places have championed for wage increases and gotten them, the inflation hit and everything just zeroed out again anyway. It didn't matter. And as long as we are living in that place, yeah, that the WGA has to fight for it, because like the alternative is fundamentally unlivable.
Yeah.
Like it can't function. And it's the same for so many other places. Like you cannot have a career and live in this country if you don't achieve these goals.
I remember seeing this. My favorite TV show of last year, The Bear, the head writer went to the strike with negative money in his bank account because he didn't make that much money off The Bear. Yeah. One of the best shows of last year, because he didn't make barely any money. Speaking
of shows you like, the Yellow Jackets writer room was like, hey, we have one great day strike.
I mean, like, and this all ties in the same to like how it's a very similar amount of injustice to when the MCU properties, the comic books and all movies and all those things come out, and the writers who created these characters don't benefit from it. Like it's not like these things are making billions of dollars.
Yeah. And
the people who created the characters, they're still living paycheck to paycheck. Like that shouldn't be happening. It just shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
So especially in terms of like the direct stream of, I made this show for your streaming service and it has made numbers for you, gotten you subscribers, you have viewers because of me, and I'm not able to survive.
2% of residuals is such a low number, but it would make all the difference.
It's also important to point out that like there are other states where this is like really prevalent, like Georgia and some parts of Chicago and all that, but New York and California, prominent places where these writer strikes are occurring, and the living wage and how much it costs to just live in those states has gotten obscene.
Yeah.
And that's part of the state's like infrastructural problem. But because of that, this is all the more like detrimental. You can't live off the wages that they're, or the opportunities, the contracts that they are giving.
Yeah. You can't claim that you've had a record-breaking year and when it's time for a raise, say, "Oh, but we're broke."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Can't do it. No, can't do it.
Nope, can't do it. So the last thing I want to bring up, just to kind of reiterate a point here, is that like these people aren't gig workers. They're not your Uber driver who's got 3 jobs. This is their career. They make art that has raked in billions, and not just in views, not just in subscribers, but in box office. And they're asking for a small part of that pie.
They're just asking for a guarantee that they can keep doing what they love doing, but in a way where they can functionally live.
Yeah.
That's all. Like, that's really all it comes down to.
I don't understand, like, if the well-being of the person, the foundation, like the script is the start of any project.
Right.
If the foundation, if your writer's happy, and then you're starting at a base of happiness, then it's only uphill. If you start happy, everyone could be happy. Like, it's so interesting that like writers are the people who like writers and like VFX people, but like writing is the foundation, and like people don't respect writers, and it's so interesting. It's so interesting. I don't get it.
You're right. It really sucks because like both audience and studios just fundamentally, as Grayson's point, like people think that these writers are $1 billion, writing doesn't matter. I don't get it. Why do people have such contempt for writers and for giving people a livable wage?
Yeah, that's like another weird like American conversation of like, why do you hate people just like making money and being happy?
Yeah.
I don't get
it. Why do you hate people living, just being alive?
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway.
That shit seeps in Hollywood, unfortunately.
I just had a flashback from a conversation I had with a family member a while ago where it's like,
me too.
But yeah, that is like another American conversation where, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. But yeah, this sucks. But dear God, I hope they get what they want.
Right. It sucks. It sucks that the writers had to do it, but they clearly had to do it.
Yeah.
Because the companies have gotten too inflated with their own bullshit about what they need and what they deserve.
Yeah. We need to change the narrative. It's time.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's move on. If you want to know more about the writer's strike, how to support it, how to help find out what the demands are, that's linked below in the description. Please, I implore you to check it out. Great stuff there.
For sure.
A couple of days after the strike happened, they renewed, quote unquote, renewed Sweet Tooth for a 3rd and final season.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't renew it. They had just didn't tell anybody that they had ordered two back-to-back seasons, and they filmed them back-to-back. So season 3 is in the can. It's filmed. It's coming.
Which makes sense with the age of the kids. And honestly, I'm really glad, because I was nervous that, this season, I'm glad that they had done this, because I was nervous that this season would get stopped and like they wouldn't have told the whole story, because you definitely like would be rushing, I think, to finish it in a second season. But like 3 seasons, there's like 3 oversized volumes for that comic series. I think you can definitely 3 seasons tell the whole story. I'm really excited. I'm happy for the team. I'm glad they got to do that.
Yeah.
Look forward to it.
It is worth noting that Netflix did this so they wouldn't have to pay them a lot. So, writer's strike though. We're doing it.
Yeah, Netflix is the one that do this. They do this all the time though.
Yeah, they had like, we'll order 10 episodes of Cuphead, but release them in seasons.
Yes.
Right. You just usually don't see it as much with the live action stuff.
Yeah, it's mostly animated stuff. Yeah.
But
again, it really makes sense with the kids.
Yeah.
Like the kids have to be kids through the whole story.
Yeah.
These seasons just take so long to make nowadays. Shorter episodes, more time in between them. Bigger budgets though.
Yeah, more quality. Yeah.
Yeah, Sweet Tooth, I'm really happy. I'm really happy about this, honestly, because I started season 2. I really like it so far. And I would hate to not have this show finished.
You didn't mention that in your week.
Like I said, I didn't watch a new episode this week. I watched it last week.
He said it last week.
Did he say it last week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're off the hook this time, McClure.
Did you watch it?
No.
You didn't mention it in your week?
Obviously, I've been too busy.
Rob Delaney is coming back as Peter in Deadpool 3.
Hell yeah, I love that guy.
The mustached
Only
guy.
surviving member of X-Force.
Yeah, the
Okay.
human.
I will say, like, now we're hitting the point where I'm like, all right, so if Negasonic Teenage Warhead is not in this, I'm gonna be a little bit upset.
Yeah, me too.
If
Yeah,
Negasonic and Yukio aren't in it, I'm going to be upset.
Oh, Yukio.
Hi, Wade.
Jonathan Groff has been cast in Doctor Who in a key role.
Good for the Groff.
I like that guy a lot.
Carl Urban is in final talks to come to join Mortal Kombat as Johnny Cage.
Shut your mouth.
This
Yeah.
is interesting.
Is this real?
Yeah.
He's not my first choice, but I just love Carl Urban.
Yeah.
He can definitely pull off like I'm the cool guy. That's cool. Ooh, Johnny Cage is like such a dumbass, so I hope he's allowed to be a dumbass. Like I hope they don't like make Johnny Cage cooler than he actually is, because he's cool, but he's also like he's awful.
Right.
That's awesome.
I could see Carl Urban douchebagging it up.
Yeah, I'd love it.
Yeah, interesting. Not my first choice, but I'm into it. Like I like Carl Urban a lot.
Gotta have some kind of like blonde hair. Oh yeah, him with a blonde drizzle. Oh yeah, he could be a douche. Sure. Yeah.
If not him, I don't know who I'd want.
Because that cast isn't like all big names, like I wouldn't mind them getting like a smaller actor, like not like a 5'2" actor. I mean like a TV actor or somebody not as famous. I'd have to really think about it, because that's like a very particular type of character.
In Mortal Kombat Legacy, the web series, it was Casper Van Dien in the second season. I liked him a lot as Johnny Cage.
That's perfect, because he played Johnny Rico, and Johnny Rico is like just space Johnny Cage.
Yeah.
Starship Troopers.
And then finally, Crypto will show up in Superman Legacy, which made me incredibly happy.
Cool.
Because I love me some Crypto the Super Dog.
Cool.
There's this guy, this actor named Chris Carmack. He's, I believe, currently on Grey's Anatomy, but where I know him from is the OC, where he played Luke, who was like the bully in the first season.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan. Okay, so he's still acting, and he's got a good look about him. He actually, if you want to go like low profile actor, I think he'd be my pick for Johnny.
Sure.
Yeah.
He's got the right energy and look.
Grayson live in the chat says, if not Carl Urban, give me Richard Schiff.
That's Johnny Cage.
Good Lord.
That's pretty good.
Really
All right. Comic book news.
I love comics.
Jim Lee got a promotion.
Another one?
Yeah, he is now the president, publisher, and chief creative officer at DC Comics.
Is he everything?
Before he was just editor in chief, I think.
That's crazy. That feels like that's a big boy job. Good
He
job.
is the one above all.
He is.
He is now the one above all.
The Lee above all.
So yeah, good for Jim Lee. Dawn of DC is going really well. So hey.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's always nice. Like that dude's been a comic book dude for decades. So like, it's nice when it's not just some random business guy they throw in. It's like, no, Jim Lee, like he knows comic books, so that's cool.
Wasn't Jeff Johns chief creative officer for a while?
Yep.
He sure was.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. Wow.
Count our blessings here, boys.
Hey, I'm about to talk about him if you want me to keep going.
No, I'm just reflecting, because I remember when the news came out that Jeff Johns was going to be CCO, and we were all like, hell yeah, Johns is good. He knows what he's doing. And then stuff happened.
That was a long time ago.
Me talking praise has had to have been like 7 years ago.
That
it
was
a long time ago.
Yeah,
that was first year of the podcast.
It would have to be, because like DC Rebirth, and
That's
then
true. That was good.
That was when the hope was alive.
That's true. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Mag in the comments, everything's coming up Jim Lee.
Everything's coming up. There we go. Yeah.
Everything's coming up Jim Lee.
Okay, Ben, I'll now satisfy your desire to talk about Jeff Johns. DC is going to officially label a new banner under the Dawn of DC titles called the Golden Age. This will be where retroactively the Stargirl, the Lost Years, Lost Teens, or whatever it's called, and Justice Society of America, both of which Jeff Johns wrote and is writing in the case of JSA, will be a part of.
Okay.
This will be a banner run by Jeff Johns. Very funny because I don't think he's released a new issue of JSA in a while. Don't let that man write ongoings. You just can't get him in on time.
He's just like in his little corner with his old, like, I love all my old people.
I want to read JSA so bad.
I do too, Brandon, and he won't let me.
I know.
He has dirt on somebody that lets him keep a stranglehold on the JSA.
It's Jim Lee.
He's got them in a death grip.
Jim, you're getting promoted, but I still get to write the JSA for you.
It's either he is just like he's that. I feel like this. Now I could be completely wrong. This is me completely speculating out my ass. But he's probably just like, oh, remember how good I was X amount of years ago? I'm still that guy, and I can still make good stuff and sell comics. And...
He is clearly not, though.
Yeah.
And you know what? Ben's actually right on one thing. He does still sell comics. Flashpoint Beyond did really well.
It's true. Like, he still has, like, hey, man, like, there's still a big market.
There was a point in time that if Jeff Johns' name was on a book, I'm like, oh, this is going to be quality. This is going to be good. Yeah. I mean, shit. Remember when Aquaman was the *1 selling comic book for DC?
At least
12 years ago.
At least he got bad before he got canceled. I guess it's not the right word, but like
no, that's true. No, like the comic quality level was dipping a little bit.
Yeah,
and then he just made it easy for us.
Yeah. So 3 new titles, however, are going to launch out of this new banner, all written by Jeff. No, I'm kidding.
I was about to lose it, dude. 3 books. Let me write a book, please.
So 3 new titles are being added to this banner, anchored by Jeff Johns' Justice Society of America, and will spin out of the final issue of Stargirl: The Lost Children. There it is, not the Lost Teens, the Lost Children.
There you go.
Which is only 6 issues and it's over soon. These titles are Alan Scott, the Green Lantern, written by Tim Sheridan, art by Cian Tormey.
Oh, that's a good creative team. Okay.
Yeah. Alan Scott has to relive his origins in the 1930s to experience a new coming-of-age tale. He somehow, through a twist of fate, he's back in the 1930s, and he's got to relive his origins, but like watch it happen.
I'm sure this will be like hey, Alan Scott will show up in a movie in the next couple of years. Here's an easy origin story.
Probably
easy, make it make sense.
Probably to retroactive the fact that he's gay into his origin.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't the case. But so he'll also have a new understanding of himself. This is a quote. He'll have gained a greater understanding of himself and his gifts as he unlocks a new, previously unknown ability that could make him the most powerful Green Lantern in existence.
Wow. Everything he knew was wrong. Wow.
Alan Scott, famously, if you don't know, he is a Green Lantern, but his power does not come from the central power battery on Oa. It comes from the Green Flame. It's a very different, but he has the same abilities. So this seems like a way to move him a little further, to kind of isolate him and make him a little bit more special than a Green Lantern.
Question: Is Alan Scott still weak to wood?
Probably.
What a silly thing.
I know that the Green Lanterns are not weak to yellow anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yellow.
They are reincorporating his homosexuality into his origin, so a weakness to wood could still be tied in.
That's what I never understood. I'm not gonna acknowledge that, Sparks. So the
you did in not.
So the Solomon Grundy was his
force
villain.
Psychic damage to everyone.
Solomon Grundy was originally his villain. He was an Alan Scott Green Lantern villain, and he was weak against him because somehow zombies are wooden. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Jay Garrick, The Flash, is getting a title, written by Jeremy Adams with art by Diego Olortegui. Jay Garrick is going to be united with his daughter, his long lost daughter Judy, whose superhero name is The Boom.
The Boom?
The Boom.
The Boom.
As in, here comes
the boom.
Yeah, as in what happens after lightning strikes, a boom.
Sonic boom.
So Jay Garrick has been reunited with his long-lost daughter, Judy, aka the Boom. They'll need to work to find common ground when a mission that started in Jay's early days as the Flash comes roaring to today.
Roaring 20s.
Yeah, so I guess Judy was introduced in JSA. John's JSA.
The Boom.
Which is interesting because like the whole point is that Jay Garrick and his wife couldn't have kids, so they like adopted, so like Barry and Bart and Wally were like their adopted family.
Yeah. Secret kid.
I guess now they have a kid.
Maybe he had,
or
like
maybe it's not. You know what you're about to say. Maybe it was a
like stand or something before he met his wife, and like, I'm a Flash baby.
Yeah. Surprise on the Flash.
I'm the Flash. Here comes the Boom.
I really don't like that superhero name though.
The Boom.
And then finally, Wesley Dodds, the Sandman.
Give
Rob, no, written by Robert Venditti, who I didn't like his Green Lantern run, but his Hawkman run is incredible. So I'm excited for this. Written by Robert Venditti with art by Riley Rosmo. This will see. So when his journal full of deadly inventions is stolen, he's a pacifist and he doesn't want these inventions getting into the wrong hands. He needs to find the culprit before they pull the United States into another world war. That's basically what it's about.
Sandman, old and not the wispy Sandman.
Yeah.
The guy with the gas.
Not Neil Gaiman Sandman, like the very old JSA Sandman.
This guy's got a gun.
That's the one with the hourglass who becomes strong, right? No, that's not him.
That's our man.
That's our man. I forget. There's so many JSA members.
Doesn't he have like the gas mask and the gun?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I think he's got a gas mask on.
Yeah. This JSA Sandman has a gas mask and a gun.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, he's the one with the gun.
Like, I don't know why. Does he use the gun? Okay, does he use the gun to shoot sand?
I doubt it.
No, I think he shoots bullets, actually.
Oh, that's even worse. Permanently going to sleep. It's like, he's like, so what do they call you the Sandman? The sand is the gunpowder. Pew.
The sand is the gunpowder. Oh, God.
DM inspiration?
No. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm actually really interested in all of these. It's nice to get some JSA books that doesn't have Jeff Johns' name on it.
Yeah, like, dude, like I want every like corner of every like comic universe to exist and thrive. I just don't think any one person should have like the monopoly on it for like it feels like 20 years at this point, man. Like,
well, because he wrote the first one.
Yeah, and I'm like, luckily other writers are allowed to grace the presence of the JSA. But like it is nice because like I know Jeremy Adams is like the Flash guy, so him getting to write like a Jay Garrick book makes sense. Like that's great. Like these all sound cool.
Trailers.
To finish up, I was like, I want more JSA in my life. I could use some more JSA.
Just watch Black Adam again.
No.
I'll watch Stargirl.
No.
Well, actually, you probably would enjoy that one.
Yeah.
I that show's apparently pretty good. Okay.
I fell off, but I liked what I watched. Yeah. Trailers. Did we want to talk about The Outlaw, Johnny Black?
Hell yeah. I watched it.
Did you watch it?
No. Oh man, it's the new Black Dynamite movie.
That's awesome.
Oh man, I wish you would have saw it. Have you seen Black Dynamite?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen Black Dynamite. I've seen the Adult Swim anime
TV show. Yeah. So this is that, but it's a Western. It looks really funny.
Is it like same?
It's Michael Jai White. Yeah.
Oh yeah. God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the trailer. It's like. It's what if Black Dynamite, but it's an action adventure, Western blaxploitation action drama. That's the whole movie. Like that's the trailer is telling you.
Oh, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. It looks really funny. I'm all about it. Black Dynamite is like a national treasure. So like getting another type of one of those movies is like
hell
fantastic.
Yeah. Black Dynamite's fantastic.
I threw that shit before you walked in the room.
Have you watched Black Dynamite, Ben?
Oh man,
I've only seen the trailer for it. I've never seen the movie.
That is a movie night we definitely need to do, and everybody should watch that animated show that only got one season, unfortunately, but it was super good.
Yeah, and Max says if they hit the Western Black Dynamite, now I want a sci-fi. Yeah, that's the next one.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll watch that 100%.
Maybe it got 2, and then the second one just wasn't released. I don't remember anymore. But like it got truncated. I know that. Super good. God, that show's good. That movie's great. Yeah.
Yeah, this looks like a
I
good
want
time.
more for sure.
Gran Turismo.
What a funny idea for a movie.
I don't hate this.
I don't hate it. The director intrigues me, even though I haven't liked like his last 2 movies.
Thanks, Meg.
2
2 seasons.
2 seasons of that show. Cool. I think I like the cast, and it is, instead of doing like, we're just gonna make like, you know, another racing movie, they're doing a video game thing, and it is based on a true story. Like, this did happen. Maybe not as dramatic, obviously it's a movie.
Yeah.
But like, this is like a fun idea. Like, if you're gonna make a Gran Turismo thing, like, why don't you do the thing that you did with a tournament and this kid who got really far?
Right. I think
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I think the idea of tackling, you know, yeah, okay, so you've got a really good idea of like the mechanics of driving, but you do not have the physical stamina. You do not have like the experience of what it is to sit in that seat and feel the heat and actually have to deal with all of what happens. That it's 2 totally different things. And I think like directly tackling that, I'm like, that's kind of like a fun like video game sports movie. Like, I don't hate this. This seems like kind of cool.
Yeah.
I actually think this is a really good idea because, as Ryan said, like, you know, you could have just done you could have done Need for Speed, right? You could have just made another racing movie, and that's a really easy way to go with a racing game. Just make a racing movie. There's not a lot of lore to a racing game normally, so you can just do what you want. But why would you want to? Because Speed Racer exists. But this is a really cool idea of being like, okay, yeah, we're making a video game movie, but it's actually about this true story related to this game. It makes me far more interested in it. I do like Neil Blomkamp. Brian's right. I really haven't liked a lot of like the most recent of his movies. But I'm honestly hopeful. I think this looks really, really interesting.
What was his most recent movie again?
Chappie.
Oh,
And then
okay.
Elysium before that, which is fine.
Oh,
but like,
all right.
okay, this is
District
the
9
guy
has
who
never
did this. Is
been-
Neil
never
Blomkamp's
been-
District 9. Okay.
Yeah.
Importantly, like, he did lead, this isn't just him, that he does have some, but like, I know there was like this whole like initiative he did with a whole bunch of shorts and like weird kind of like creature things and like that. And so he had some stuff in there that was pretty good. Like his shorts work was really cool. And like, I do think it's a credit to, clearly he had something really great going with that Alien film that we'll never see, unfortunately, because Sigourney Weaver really recently commented and said, yeah, I really like what we were doing with Neil Blomkamp, and that's not happening, so I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
That was really funny, by the way, when she was like, yeah, I really wanted to do that, so sorry.
Shame.
Yeah. And I think that kind of tells you all you need to know about, like, there was probably something pretty solid there. So,
and he was going to do a RoboCop sequel, and then that was taken away from him.
Man, he's also like been teasing Halo stuff for a couple of weeks now, and I don't know if that's just like more like, oh, we're gonna do another TV spot for a game that nobody's playing anymore. I'm like, what are you doing, Neil? What are you doing?
God, I wish he'd done that movie.
Yeah.
The shots in the movie look, I like them.
Yeah.
Like, I like the way this movie looks like it's already filmed by Blomkamp. So I like the concept. I like the potential for this.
And like generally with like, you know, American racing movies, it's about NASCAR, and I love racing in itself is a really cool idea, but going in just a circle has never appealed to me. No, I don't care how fast you're going, but when it's like Formula One and like cars that weigh like 7 pounds, so like when they crash, they literally fly in the air. Like that's really, I find that stuff like really cool. Like I love like Formula One racing movies. I don't watch a lot of them, but when I do, I'm like, hell yeah, you're not going in a circle.
Or like the last racing movie I watched was Ford v Ferrari.
Great movie.
Great movie. But even then, like, because that movie was all about Ford beating Ferrari in the 24-hour Le Mans, and that's it's a track with twists and turns. Actually, one of the reasons why I think now more Americans are kind of embracing F1 Formula One racing, because there's more twists and turns. There's, you know, cars go a whole lot faster. Even I was fortunate a few years ago to go to the Grand Prix at Long Beach.
Ooh.
And you want to talk about fast? Those suckers go zip. But sorry,
just more exciting.
Yeah, but talking about Gran Turismo, I feel that if you were to make a movie about Gran Turismo, this is the best way to go, because otherwise you're probably just gonna get another generic, scrappy young racer who goes from the bottom to the top. And the way that you and because if you ever play Gran Turismo, there is no story. There is no. It is when they advertise Gran Turismo as a driving simulator.
It is the most like
technically-
simulation. Like you want
Yeah.
to know what it's like to drive a real car with a controller. This is what you're doing.
Right.
Mhm. I mean, I owned it. Like the only Gran Turismo game I've ever owned and played was Gran Turismo 3 for the PS2. Fantastic game, great soundtrack. I barely played it because I wasn't much into the simulation of it. I'm more of a kart racer guy. I like going doing crazy shit. But there are people who play Gran Turismo and they have this whole rig where it's the steering wheel controller. They have the pedals. They have everything to their liking. And the fact that someone actually played Gran Turismo so much and they became a professional race car driver, and they worked their way up. I think this is like a great way to incorporate the game into like a decent story.
The real person that this is based off of had an interview a number of years back because he's become a Formula One racer. He's a real racer now. And he was asked about his experience going from gamer to racer. And he's like, Gran Turismo is a really good example of this because like what he said was like outside of like the wind resistance, Gran Turismo gets it right. Like the braking, like if you got that kind of rig, you're braking, you're turning, you're shifting, it's all very accurate to what you actually do out there.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, yes, it's a video game. It's a video game I'm familiar with. I'm excited to see this, but I'm really excited because it's not a video game adaptation in the terms of like, say, Mario or Sonic the Hedgehog. This is like, I don't know what to call it. It is based around a video game, but at the same time, it's based on like I don't want to call it video game realism, but I don't have a word to describe it.
It's a video game movie. Like, because it's a weird type of it, it doesn't not make it a video game movie.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope that they don't just because they can create some like sappy story where Jimon Hansu's dad character dies.
Oh Jesus!
For some reason,
Jimon,
because like he's gotta make it through a movie, right?
There's no reason for it.
I mean, he did just make it through Fury of the Gods, so I should
it'd be really funny.
And Kingsman. There
you go.
The prequel, the King's Man. He made it through.
Oh, sure. Right. You told me that. I'm happy about that. I don't know if I'll watch that movie, but I am happy he made it through. Yeah. I like the cast. It's nice to see him. It's also nice to see Orlando Bloom. Not where I expected to see him next.
Yeah.
But I'm into it.
Yeah, I'm into the cast.
Me too. I'm looking forward to seeing the movie.
When I before I saw the trailer, when I just saw the Gran Turismo trailer being shared around, I'm like, oh boy. I was ready for another Need for Speed situation. Then I watched it, I'm like, oh, okay.
You're trying something.
All right. Honestly, I'm kind of here for it.
I saw a copy of the original Gran Turismo for the PS1 on sale at SoCal Gaming. Didn't have a price tag on it, and I thought about it. And now I'm kind of bummed I didn't pick it up. I'm pretty sure it was cheap because I saw a copy of Gran Turismo 2 for like $5.
You don't need it, Ben. You don't need it just because you saw a movie trailer for it. You're not going to enjoy it. It's the simulation game. You just said you don't like those games. Don't buy it just to buy it.
Yeah, Ben. Come on.
Be strong, Ben.
Yeah, be strong.
I obviously didn't.
Grayson, very, very fun comment. Good job. We see you.
Yeah, sorry. I almost drowned. I don't know if you saw that.
We saw it. Couldn't do anything about it, so I was just like, boy, I hope he pulls through.
All right. Dune Part 2.
Things are about to get spicy, y'all.
So fun story. While I was chilling on the beach one day, over the sound of the waves, I was actually hearing Ryan making that exact sound when the trailer dropped because I'm like, oh, guess Dune 2 trailer dropped, and yeah, I can tell.
It was funny. Like the first 6 hours of that day, I just opened my window and I was just a starter car throat chanting, "Oh damn, all just for like 6 hours straight." If you've listened to this podcast before, you know I love Dune. I love the book. I love the movie. Most importantly, my favorite filmmaker right now is Denis Villeneuve. That dude has never made a bad movie. He's made only bangers. And this looks like, hey man, he gets to capitalize on the dream of making like a big finale to a big sci-fi epic. And it just looks like that first movie looked incredible. And like he's doing even more with that. Because like, yeah, like that movie, it's kind of like brown. Like, well, yeah, it takes place in a desert. Like I'm going to allow this one to look brown. Okay. This one though, actually adding color, adding black and white. We're seeing a bunch of new cast members. Like, oh my God, Austin Butler as like the bald of Fade Routha. I love it. I know it's being shared a lot, but the one shot of him on the mountain, it's just like, shit, man. Like I know like special effects can be cynical at times, but I'm like, God, it just looks so good. I believe that man standing in front of 10,000 people, man.
They're riding the sandworm.
What is the Paul? Yeah, Timothée Chalamet. They made a real sandworm.
Yeah, hell yeah! I'm sure there's like a big ass thing that he's just like, woo! He's like,
I'm sure what they mean by that is that there is a practical thing for Timothée Chalamet to latch onto, but like the bottom of it is like CG,
like Avatar. They're riding dragons.
Yeah, because when we see him like fall into the thing and then like clamp onto the thing, you can like feel the rough texture. You can see it, and it feels really real hearing that that's not CG. It looks great. It looks awesome.
I'm excited. We get a little glimpse of Florence Pugh.
Teeny bit.
Just a bit.
Princess Irulan.
God, I'm excited.
I love the line, "What if Paul Atreides lived?"
Oh man! And
we see Josh Brolin. He's got
he's back. Yeah, and like man, like I love that first movie. Like I will, if people say, "Hey, that movie's kind of boring," I will allow that. Like I think it is a perfectly great drama. This second movie is not going to be boring.
Ryan will, going forward, refrain from beating you in the street.
Yeah. This second one, man, it is going to be. There's going to be just like dozens of people riding sandworms attacking a fortress at the end. Like we read that book. It's going to be the coolest shit you've seen in your entire life. I'm just like, I'm just so excited. I can't
I think this one is going to do really well. The first one did respectable. It did, but it didn't make gangbusters.
Yeah.
I think this one will do really well because you get the audience who found Dune during the pandemic and on streaming going to the theater now.
I am still so intrigued to see Villeneuve's interpretation of those whisper characters that speak in the cone.
Sure,
they could be. Yeah.
I want to know. I want to see what he does with the space worms.
Sure.
I don't think he'll do it, but I want to see it.
The navigation people, yeah.
It's a good time to be alive, y'all.
It's true.
I was very excited. I was gonna say, while on vacation, Dune popped up on HBO, and my fiance and I watched it, and we were talking about, man, when's that next Dune movie gonna come out? Well, then the very next day, the trailer announcement came up on our feed, so we're like, oh yeah, we gotta watch. It's like, oh yeah, Dune, and we saw the trailer together. And we were really, really excited to watch Dune Chapter 2 or Part 2. So I'm ready. I'm looking forward to it.
Not to bring this down, but my dad was really excited for this movie. I'm really grateful that we're getting it.
Sure. Me too. Yeah, man. There was a period like with like the Zaslav stuff and like and HBO Max and like streaming and like Dune 2 might not have happened. And I'm just really glad like man, this podcast has gone long enough for like man, I'm seeing that movie in a couple months. Like unbelievable.
And maybe if this does well, we get Dune 3, Dune Messiah.
Yeah, like man, oh man, the world is not ready for like human worm hybrid people. That's when man, Dune's weird already, but like it gets like goopy. It's gonna be
it's really goopy, cool. Not goofy, goopy.
No, with a hard P.
All right, shall we move on?
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Let's get goopy with it.
No.
All right, we're going to now talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 4, written and directed by Mr. James Gunn.
That was not on purpose.
Volume 3.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Did I say? I did say 4.
Yeah.
How strange. I'm in the future. Sure. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, written and directed by James Gunn. This is the third Guardians film. It's been a number of years since we've seen the Guardians. It's been even longer. And the Guardians of the Galaxy, your theater marquee.
Almost 10 years ago. It makes me feel
and it's been even longer in universe. So let's full spoilers, guys. If you have not seen the movie, do not continue, do not pass go. Pause this, go away, watch the movie, then come back and listen to our spoilers review.
Hug your pets.
I do want to just make a quick addition to the spoiler because, like, yes, generally, like, of course, everything on MCU is on the table, but we will, I know, touch on the holiday special. So if you did not watch that, sorry, we're spoiling it a little bit.
Yeah. So let's get right into it. What do we think? Ben, since you're right there.
Okay, yeah, since I'm right here, I'm just gonna come out swinging, guys. This is probably the best Marvel movie ever made.
Oh,
Mm.
I got a little
I-
scared, honestly.
Me
I
too.
I don't know how much I have to say because when I was watching it, even the more time I was stewing on that, I feel that the Guardians trilogy is the best trilogy in the MCU, and this movie instantly jumped up to my top 3 Marvel films of all time.
Hell yeah.
I got all of the feels, the characters, the story, the drive. Honestly, just there are multiple times when I was watching this movie. I don't know if this is because I was just happy sitting in the theater watching it, but multiple times in this movie, I was like, this is like a perfect Marvel film. It is. It's funny. It's got heart. There's just so much there. I absolutely adore this movie, and I honestly don't have any negatives whatsoever. I cannot think of one. Maybe at this point, I'm like, there are no negatives. Change my mind. That's kind of how I feel about Guardians 3 right now.
Hell yeah.
Sparks Ryan.
Sure. I think it's a great movie. I don't think it's the best Marvel movie. I certainly, upon reflecting, I was super hot on it coming out. Upon thinking about it, I think it's great. It is like, this makes me sound like I hate it. I don't. I love it. This is still going to be like a 9 out of 10. Like the Guardians, like they're all 3 great movies. I certainly have a couple of problems with it. And it's just it being structured in a different way than the other 2 movies. I found it tonally shifts a little bit in places when like something really intense happens, and then like 5 seconds later that you want me to laugh. And I just needed a little more room in certain places. But I think it's great. Like I had a fantastic time. Another James Gunn banger.
Sparks.
I love this movie. I love this movie very much. I very much wish that there was just more of all of it, because that's how much I loved it. And I'll get into it, but I loved it.
So I loved this. I really, really did. This is exactly the movie I wanted it to be. This is exactly the movie I expected. I'm incredibly happy that this is the movie. No, that's not to say I don't have things to say, as I do. I've got a lot of things to say. But I really, really, really loved it. As you guys know, as I'm sure the podcast knows, Rocket Raccoon is one of, if not my favorite character in the MCU. One of the reasons why I wanted to watch Infinity War and Endgame is because Rocket Raccoon is so heavily featured in those movies, and I really like how they write his character in those movies. So I really love what they did with him, especially in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into it. I'll start with a negative after saying all that nice stuff.
It's gonna be mostly nice stuff, so yeah.
Yeah. I don't think Adam Warlock needed to be in this movie.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a problem with him. I liked him a lot, but like he definitely, you could remove him from this movie and not a lot would change. And that's definitely a, post James Gunn getting fired, Endgame, Infinity War, like years past, like so much stuff interferes with what the actual plan for what Guardians 3 was initially going to be, I think. So I unfortunately think it was not an afterthought, but like you can't really include him more in the story for whatever reason, James Gunn. I don't know. I liked him, but like he definitely felt like, oh, he'll show up in the next Guardians movie. It's not gonna happen. Yeah,
so I feel much the same way. Like he's used, the most significant thing he does in the movie is hurt Rocket to the point where that sets off the story, and that's great. That's a great moment. That's a great scene. And I really like Will Poulter as Adam Warlock. I think he's really good and he's really funny. And I was happy to see Elizabeth Debicki back. But you take out that whole subplot and it doesn't change the movie at all. Not really. And that was kind of my issue, because like he became an afterthought by the end of the movie, to where I kind of was like, oh, right, Adam Warlock is in this movie. A lot of when he showed up.
Yeah. I don't completely agree, because I think there is value in him when he enters the film. And yes, you're correct. Like the most important thing he does is injure Rocket. That importantly, like our characters don't have the reasons, and neither does the audience, to draw the conclusions that he was sent by the High Evolutionary. We have all the reasons as audiences to think that this is just because of the stuff from Volume 2. and our characters have no idea to connect him to that. Like, it keeps things one space removed, so we're not jumping to the high evolutionary stuff right away. Whereas, like, if you take him out and you put someone who's doing it specifically for the high evolutionary, you have to move them into that space dealing with him a lot faster. And I think leaving the breadth of room is what allows for the Guardians to be desperate in trying to save Rocket rather than going straight to the source. So I don't think his role is meaningless. I won't disagree that, like, as the movie goes on, it becomes a little less like, you know, once the bridge has occurred, then it's like, okay, so he's still around though. But I do think, like, it's valuable for him to be present as that connecting piece.
I also don't feel like, with the themes of the movie about parenthood and like trauma and stuff, like, I don't feel like they dived into any of that with him really, with him and his mom.
Right.
And like, I like that stuff. Like, I thought it was fun, but like, I didn't feel like as part of the entire story that they're trying to tell. It felt like in the last revision, like, all right, here comes Adam Warlock. Let me put him in where I need to put him in. Because any character could have hurt Rocket. It didn't have to be Adam Warlock.
I'll say, like, for world building purposes, another reason I like Adam Warlock and, by extension, the Sovereign and his mother still being in this film is because, for the context of the film, we learned that the High Evolutionary created the Sovereigns.
Yes.
And, like, it makes the High Evolutionary's influence in the MCU feel beyond this film in a retroactive way, which, frankly, the MCU is not usually very good at doing. They're usually doing, like, a lot of cleanup later.
That's true.
And this feels like, yes, the High Evolutionary has kind of had this presence of doing this with species and all these kinds of things, like that there's a very clear and conscious through line that, like, kind of explains how the Sovereigns are in Volume 2 that leads directly into the High Evolutionary. And so, like, I like that kind of world building. I feel like that's very rich in its own way. Again, I'm not going to say, like, their execution in being present in this film is flawless, but I like having them more than I personally would be more disappointed to have, like, someone else in his position who's just working for the High Evolutionary and not have the Adam Warlock stuff brought up in this movie. Because I feel like bringing the Sovereign and the Adam Warlock stuff to fruition, even if it is a lesser point of doing something in this film, is still satisfying for a general audience that wanted that stuff.
I guess, like in your point of, like, I just wanted more of him because I don't really feel like he contributes to the story in a way that the other characters do. I like having him there, but, like, it's more like popcorn as opposed to like a dinner.
I am genuinely surprised that, like, when we get into the third act, like, once his mom has been hurt, that he's not just, like, actively conversing
100%
with the Guardians, that like he's getting on the same page. Like, I fully expected that he was gonna kind of help them take care of clearing the Hellspawn and all that other kind of stuff. So the fact that didn't happen does surprise me, because it feels like that's the natural, like, connection point. And I do think, like, the answer is because, like, he's just not an original Guardian member, and this is about the final point story for that crew, and, like, having him additionally present for so much of that would add an energy that's not that could be detracting from their chemistry.
He would single-handedly wipe out that entire hallway sequence, so he can't be there.
Right.
Yeah, but if he was, I think his presence would have been. I think I would have appreciated his inclusion in the story a little bit more if he was.
See, I don't think he would have been in the hallway sequence, and I do think, like, I love Kraglin's moment. I thought he was going to go on to nowhere. Like, he was going to assist them by taking on the floods of Hellspawn that's going into nowhere, and so he was going to be one of the reasons why, like, that's actually not really a problem.
Yeah.
Like, you see, like, the swarms and swarms going in there, and you're like, oh boy, how are they going to deal with this one? Yeah, I thought that's what his purpose was going to be. He was going to be like, you know what, homies, you take care of this. I'm gonna go take care of all that.
Yeah.
So I am surprised he wasn't utilized that way, but, like, I like him in the movie. I like the interpretation of, like, him as this released from the cocoon too early Sovereign type baby. I think, like, frankly, one of the things I laughed at the hardest personally in the film is when, and I saw it coming from a mile away, was the whatever she says that's like, you know, show him what we're working with, or show him what you're made of. And so, like, he just eviscerates him on the and she's like, that's not what I meant. And he's like, well, you should have been more specific. He's better off. I think Will Poulter has a fun energy. I do just, like, it is something I'll say about a lot of points in this movie that I'm just like, I could have just had more. I could have just had more. But undeniably, one of my favorite shots in the movie, and like especially timed with the music, is when he's just in the distance coming straight forward at the camera. I'm like, this is a great shot. This is just
Black
a good,
Adam,
just a good like coming right in. I really loved it, and you felt like oh shit.
Yeah, he definitely feels powerful.
I really like the effect of his flying. I think that looks really, really interesting. I really like his costume. I think he looks very good. I was watching this, and because Guardians 2 has the fight between Ego and Peter when they're flying through the air. I was like, man, Superman Legacy about to look real good, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he looks very good in the movie. I really like that whole first action scene with him, like the fight between him and Nebula and Drax and Groot and all that. I think that all plays really, really well.
Nebula's got a Krakoan arm. She can just turn it into things. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I like her arm a lot. So yeah, those are my feelings on Adam Warlock. I liked what Will Poulter did. I agree with this general sentiment that like wanted more with him, but I'm glad he was here nonetheless.
Yeah.
I really liked the flashback sequences and how they were incorporated into the movie, and they really helped because Rocket is off the table for a lot of this movie, which I didn't expect.
Well, he's technically on the table. So.
I was gonna say, beat me by 1 second. Damn it.
And he because of and I think the flashbacks help keep Rocket as a present character in the movie. That was really effective for me, and probably responsible for 3 of my 5 cries.
I think that's also true. There is one where like I just think, and I only saw the film once, so I don't know how to fix this, but like I just think it's ill placed in the film, like just when it happens, and it's when it's the big one. It's the one where Rocket loses all his friends, which is super emotional and everything, but that's a longer sequence, and it kicks off when Quill is approaching the High Evolutionary, and then we come back from it back to Quill approaching the High Evolutionary, and I'm like, this just feels like it's in a weird spot.
Sure.
I would argue that the reason why that's there, it's to show like how, I mean, obviously we know the High Evolutionary is a bad guy. We know like how I feel like that scene is there is just so us as an audience has more of an anger towards the High Evolutionary and how more we want Peter to kick his ass.
No, absolutely. But the thing is, like, I guess to me, like in the film language of what's driving the scene, right, is Peter Quill walking in. It's his initiation. It's his initiative. It's his moment of him going to the High Evolutionary. Like he's going to spring the Evolutionary's trap on purpose. And so like flashing back and then coming back to Quill, like it's not like the film is reflecting on the High Evolutionary's moment. A lot of the other moments, they are like almost like Rocket's thinking about it. We usually see him on the table before we go into a flashback. So it's like these things are somewhat connected. Like there's a logical like thematic bridge of why we're going there. And that one, I felt like maybe we should have just been in one of the scenes where it's just with like the High Evolutionary talking to some of the scientists or something, and then gone into it. Rather than like the motivating movement of the scene being Quill entering the fray, because Quill has nothing to do with that scene and largely doesn't know the information of that scene. At least we have to suspect, because like he does know like everything the Evolutionary did to Rocket as far as like experimentation, but we have no reason to believe he knows that specific sequence of events where he took out his friends. So Quill's not motivated by that specific flashback. So it's a little weird.
It's just for
him to be our character bringing us into that moment. And again, because it's the lengthier flashback, it also like cuts up that scene in a weird way. So like there's just something about the pacing of where it's placed that's a little off. Like genuinely when we came back out of it, because I was so emotionally wrapped up in that scene because it's a great scene, I had to kind of go, oh, right, Quill's coming to talk to the High Evolutionary.
That's what I mean about like, I respect and I love that he decided, okay, instead of having it be, chronological, we're going to do like these flashbacks throughout like the first half of the movie. And I really like that. It's just like the coming out and coming in, there's certain times that we come back into a scene. You expect me to feel completely different. Like 1 second after you just like gutted my heart. And it's like,
that's the only one where I'm just like, something's jarring here.
There's one specific one. It's not a tonal thing. It's an editing thing. And it really caught me off guard. It's a great Rocket scene happens, and then we cut back to the crew, and it's just like a snapping shot on them, and then it's a quick cut, and they're just running, and it felt like a very quick, like a TV edit. It was very jarring. I'm surprised you didn't notice it. It was very like, it was very quick, and it felt very jarring. I don't know how else to put it, but it was like very like we're here, and it's just like this, and I'm like, that was it took me out for half a second. But besides like that, like I think it's done really well. Like interplacing all the different flashbacks is really great. I love all those characters. We don't need to see a Disney Plus show about them.
I really love those flashbacks because we knew look, if you're us, you knew that Lila was already an important character to Rocket because there's the Easter egg in his
rap sheet
when he was arrested by the Star Force, Nova
rap
Force.
Yeah.
And Lila is named there, and so when we finally get to meet Lila, it's very emotional. And
sorry, you're good.
It's okay. It's very emotional and very very good. And throughout those flashbacks, as we're learning about these Floor and Teefs and Lila and how they all kind of were friends, and seeing this very different, very innocent version of Rocket, it's very emotional. And when we get to the payoff, which is that all three of them were choking up a little bit, were killed. It's absolutely 100% devastating. And I was surprised at just how I knew this was going to be an emotional movie. I didn't know it was going to be this emotional. Like this is a hard movie to watch sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we all love animals. Like, it's one thing seeing like somebody get killed in like a John Wick movie, but like animals, they're different. They're a little more innocent. And then when you give animals like sentience, it makes it doubly worse because then they're people and they're animals. So yeah, man, like it's almost like manipulation. It's because like it is manipulation. Like I have some people. There have been a lot of people online. I'm not one of them. I think this is fine, but like saying that this movie goes a little too far for trying to be this is a Marvel movie. Do we really need to see these animals get like butchered like this? And I'm like, if you want the trauma of what Rocket's going through to mean something, and like to show that like this is what he went through, like sometimes you have to see these things. Like again, like kids movies from the 80s, those movies are PG, but they're doing like horrific shit.
Right.
They're killing kids in some of those movies, right? So like sometimes kids like, and it's just a PG-13 movie. Don't bring a child to this movie in the first place. That's another conversation to have. I don't think this movie's too grim or anything. I think it is like, this is the situation. Like, man, he didn't care about the kids that he was raising, and like they're just experiments to him. And like, whether it's animals or children, like, being a bad parent transcends everything. Being a bad owner transcends everything.
Yeah. I do think just to the point of all that, like, I think it's the right kind of like, I don't feel, I know when a movie is like doing it and like I think it's egregious and unnecessary and like it doesn't fulfill a plot to like hurt animals to get you. And I don't feel that way about this. Like I think it is trying to give you the emotionality of what Rocket has been through, and it delivers. And the fact that people have strong responses to it is because like it's effective. It's not just effective because it's like animals and like very sweet looking animals who have been put through hell, but also because it's Rocket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and pays off at the end of the movie when Rocket says, "We have to save them all." We did. No, we have to save them all.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's all that's really, really good. So I don't have a problem with that. I think that's really strong.
I think the movie has great personal stakes. The fact that they decided not to do a kind of world-ending stakes of Ego and
thank God.
Ronan, and really take it down to a personal level. Like I was really surprised that the movie was just about saving Rocket.
Right. Well, and like they have their cake and eat it too, right? Because like that's right. It is about saving Rocket. That's the Guardians' mission. Is we have to save Rocket, but it puts them on the collision course with the High Evolutionary, who we watch destroy a planet of sentient, sweet beings, and has children on his ship. So like there are greater stakes. They're just not the stakes that were driving our initial action to take place. They're not our inciting incident, but they are there. So like it's a good way to like keep everything feeling really, really personal for the Guardians, but also get to like, there are some big ramifications of what they're dealing with. Mm-hmm. It's just personal for them, which I thought was a really good way to do it, because like it does bother them that like, and it should, because they're the Guardians, like it does bother them that he destroys this planet of peaceful beings.
Yeah. Specifically, that planet is Counter Earth, which
Right.
fun way to bring that in. There are sometimes where I'm like, I don't get why James Gunn adapted something the way they did, and there's some where I'm like, this is actually a really interesting and unique way to bring in this thing. Counter Earth is not something that the MCU is probably ever going to use.
Right, yeah.
So using it in this course, in this situation, and in this story made a lot of sense and created something really interesting. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, and like and the fact that it's still serving like purpose to Rocket's larger story too, right? Because in a not Rocket's fault sense, but like all of those beings on that planet exist because of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're all functionally there, living their lives because of him. And the high evolution, it shows the like ferocious, absolute apathy that the high evolutionary has for living creatures. To have seen the journey of creating this whole society of Counter Earth and being like, but I can just etch a sketch that away and it doesn't bother me.
It's also it is funny that like he was on the verge or trying to make like the perfect society, but he just made like 1980s New York where you just have like crack dealers,
right? Which bothers him clearly. Like I like the way Quill digs into him with that, and that bothers him. But like that he is a character who like he could have just walked away and done more experiments elsewhere, and left the planet as was, but he's too petty for that.
He views like those things as inferior. It's like, oh, they shouldn't even exist. I have to destroy it.
It makes him a really strong villain because of the way, and like a very strong, like again, because of the through line with Rocket, antagonist to what Rocket has been through and like the weight of what Rocket means in terms of the story.
He has a good line that's like, somebody's like, oh my God. And he's like, there is no God. That's why I stepped up. And I'm like, nah, you bad.
You're right.
Speaking of Counter Earth and its residents, the makeup, prosthetic effects look incredible.
They really do.
Just all across the board.
Oh yeah,
it pays off really well. I really am glad they went that route. Also, I do want to highlight James Gunn has talked about like he went out of his way to make sure that all the flashback sequence stuff with Rocket, with Lila, like all of them, because they knew there was going to be so much heavy CGI work. Those were the first things they filmed to make sure that they gave the visual effects artists the time they needed to make it work.
Look at that smart
filmmaker.
filmmaker.
Like that's just really thoughtful consideration. And I only highlight that so much because like A, obviously it pays off. It looks incredible in this film, but B, because he's about to be this person who's spearheading that entire cinematic universe over at DC. And like, it's that kind of thoughtfulness and consideration for the entire crew that's going to make them successful.
Yeah.
Fun fact about the practical effects in this movie. This has the most people in makeup and wigs and like special effects out of any movie. It beats Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, which was the original. We spent so much money. They spent like millions of dollars on just people looking like apes. This movie also did that with animal people. That bat lady, man, she looks so good.
She does.
That's a good looking bat family.
I'm really glad that they finally found a way to get Batman into a Marvel movie.
Oh my God. War Pig.
Yeah.
You know who War Pig is, guys? It's Judy Greer.
Is it really?
Yeah, I looked it up afterwards. I didn't know during the movie, but I'm like,
so funny.
That's a fun James Gunn thing. That's fun.
Wait, who's Judy Greer?
War Pig, the giant pig mech that gets killed.
That's Judy Greer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Miley Cyrus was replaced by Tara Strong for what's that guy's name? Robot?
I don't remember. I was kind of bummed out. I love Tara Strong, but I wish I could have got the original person back.
Because we get a little bit more of the Ravagers of the original Guardians team, essentially, who form the Ravager captains. We get more of them in this movie. I really liked seeing Stallone in like that full Starhawk. Not Starhawk.
Mm-hmm.
What's that guy's name?
No, Starhawk, yeah, because Darkhawk is the other guy.
Oh yeah, Starhawk. Yeah, you're right. I was thinking about Darkhawk for a second. Yeah, Starhawk. When he's in space and he's got the cosmic energy around, I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, it was one of those things after 2 where I was like, I really hope we get to see those guys again. So like the way that they were brought back around in this, I really enjoyed it.
When they come in and the snake sorcerer is making the portals, so cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, Ving Rhames not being there.
Because he was in the original, the second one.
That's a shame. Yeah, that's cool. Like I also didn't think. I figured they would have showed up in this last movie as like a cameo or something, but then to be like, no, like we're gonna be like here's everybody. We're just in the movie for a second. I'm like, that's cool, man. I love it.
Nathan Fillion's in this movie.
Yeah, he plays a
Wasn't gonna get Wonder Man, so James Gunn had to
Yeah.
make sure he got a good showing.
Plays
this
a-
time out.
a rude prison guard on an organic world. Gross.
I really love the line. Is like, this is my, it's the president's son. I'm working. It's like, I got one of them too.
Yeah, I got one of those.
And he
Just
keeps doing that to
drives me
multiple
crazy.
people.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I
This
also
guy
got an
sucks.
idiot.
I got one of those guys. I get it.
And the guy's just like, oh.
Yeah.
That whole organic world was gross, and like some of it was practical and looked like that door opens up and it's like that's a flesh door. Man.
Got a shout out loving Daniela Melchior making a cameo.
Oh, she digs me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was her.
That is her. Yeah.
Ratcatcher.
Ratcatcher
Um,
too, then from Suicide Squad. She is the girl that they take hostage.
That Quill's trying to charm.
Wow. Yeah.
I
That's her.
really love Mantis like making the other guy fall in love with Drax, and Drax like, ugh.
Yeah. He's like, wow,
And she-
I'll be
where,
waiting.
where are you going today? And it's like, yeah, okay, cool. What's your name again? Drax the Destroyer. God, it's such a beautiful name. Like I love Drax and Mantis work so well. I'm so glad the holiday special exists because I think it just further deepens like their relationship for this film.
Mhm.
Because like you get the whole history of like, oh man, like she does this. They like pull pranks on each other. There's a very like brother-sister relationship to them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just love how they're walking away and Drax looks over. It's like, why do you have to do this every time? She's like, because it's funny. And
Right.
it
Oh,
is.
Gamora, she's part of the Ravagers. I like that. I think that's fun.
It's a cool okay. Because you're going down the road. I don't want to cut you off. So like,
No,
finish
I'm
your
just gonna
thought.
like. I think it's gonna lead into what you're talking about. Like James Gunn, like he came into this movie with one of his main characters not only being dead but resurrected like 10 years in the past. So like, what do you do with that? And the easy thing could have been, oh, she falls in love with Peter. That's easy. But she's not the same person as our Gamora. So the fact that they didn't end up together and it's like happy, I loved it. I'm glad they didn't force a romance because like, oh, destiny or whatever. Like, no, they're not the same people.
Right. The way that like he yes ands the fact that this Gamora, I really like when she has the line like she's like, I never left Thanos. Like she never had the opportunity to make that choice.
Yeah.
That was never real for her. So that's not her history. And that fundamentally changes who she becomes because of that. Like she has to follow a different path of like finding who she is now. And the fact that he like followed that through in a logical way where it's like, yeah, Gamora would make different choices and find a different path. Rather than just like, no, of course she would always like reset back to like what you would expect. Yeah, it's bold. It's a bold choice and it pays off really well.
Honestly,
There's a moment. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
That's actually one of the reasons why I love this movie is that you would think, oh, they're just gonna get back together. It's the growing pains of them falling in love all over again, and the fact that they don't. And Gamora says, "I'm not her. I'm completely different." And she doesn't have like, she has a respect for Peter, but it doesn't turn into like a full, oh, I'm in love with this person sort of thing. And also one of the things I love about this movie is how.
Wait, are you going to go away from the Gamora and Peter thing?
No. I'm gonna stick. I had another point and I lost it, but I really love how you think it's gonna go the way it is. It's like, boy and girl fall in love with each other. A girl gets or one person gets amnesia. They have to fall in love with each other all over again. It's the same song and dance we've been through 1.5 billion times. But the fact that they don't is like, no, there's maybe one instance in the whole movie where there's maybe a romantic connection between the two of them.
One of the things
they don't explore about it, and it's like they go live their separate lives, and I kind of like that.
One of the things that someone pointed out that I kind of think is interesting is that 4, I believe, of the MCU films post Endgame have been about breakups and how do you move on, and I find that so interesting, and I really like how it's handled here, because it is framed as a breakup, even though it's not. Gamora was taken from Peter, and Peter is kind of. There's this moment when they're breaking into the flesh science place. I forgot the place is called. And they Peter thinks he mutes his mic, and he's talking to her, and he says, I'm a mess. I miss you. Like he's taking on the Thanos did that because he couldn't kill her. He is taking that on. He's taking on the fact that their relationship was cut short. Essentially, they did not run its course, and he is. I like that it's not constantly played as if he's this lovelorn, lovesick puppy dog who will follow Gamora no matter what. He is emotionally compromised, but in a way that also respects Gamora. Like, he's just like, I miss us.
I think there's a really interesting thing Gunn does with the language of like certain characters are in different camps about this in the Guardians team, right? Like some will say Gamora died and some will say Gamora just forgot.
Mm-hmm.
And like Drax and Quill say like, no, she just forgot the past decade, you know, like, and that's not true.
They're not accepting it.
That is a you know, narrative that they want to exist in. But it's not real. Like, their Gamora died. Like, and some are living with that reality and some aren't. And I think that that's very effective. And it's really, really cool that he made a decision to not only not put Gamora and Peter back on the same path again, but instead, not even like, even though he jokes and flirts with the idea of like Peter and Nebula because of the gag about it, like we saw in the trailer, but like the real important thing is the challenging of like, Peter, like what are you chasing? Like, yes, you had something great with Gamora, but like what are you running from now? It's also a really great line that Gamora throws at him, like, what are you so afraid of in yourself that you have to use me as the thing to save you? And like where it all like leads Peter to, I think, is really, really strong.
Oh yeah, Mantis is like
the lily pad thing that she makes Drax say to him, I think is really effective.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're not learning to swim on your own.
Mantis, I want to say, very good in this movie.
Yeah.
Right. And like, this is also a good time to highlight like the holiday special. Like I feel the holiday special is essential viewing. I don't feel like it is just like, oh yeah, you can like, yes, you can watch this movie and not watch that. But like, I think you are missing something about how this Guardians family has reshaped itself post Endgame without the holiday special. I'm so grateful that Gunn was able to do that like they got to tell that story, because like, I'm glad that the story isn't just Peter has been a drunk since Endgame, because that like, that's not the story. It's just like things are just getting harder as time goes on, and like that you're not dealing with your grief, and that you get that clearly because of the holiday special. Like, you know what their lives on Nowhere have been like to an extent, and you understand like where they've been at, like kind of rebuilding themselves, but now there's kind of been like some time to settle into living in Nowhere, and that's allowed Peter to get more depressed about what things are. I think that's really strong, and that's important and effective storytelling, and also of course building the foundation of like Mantis and Peter in that movie. Like it's paid off so well here by knowing that they found that connection in each other in that story, and how important that was to Mantis.
It is funny if you didn't watch the special. There's just like one line of like, yeah, Mantis, you know, my sister. And then it's like that's it. And I'm like, that's funny.
Yeah.
I think it does actually come up 3 times, because there's like the time where when he's drunk, it's like Nebula says like, you go deal with him, he's your brother.
Sure.
And then her talking about like, I need you to do this because like nobody listens to me, and like, even though I'm his sister.
Gotcha. Good point.
And yeah, like we're family, but we're not the same. Like, you left somebody on Earth, that whole idea. So it's present enough, but like it's definitely reinforced better by having the holiday special knowledge, and like honestly, just more times with the Guardians. Is always great.
I love the idea of like the Guardians movie being about family, but also like, as long as like your relationships are good, like don't forget your real family.
Yeah,
like your grandpa didn't do anything wrong. He loved you.
I think I might have just thought, hi Mint, my friend Mint is in the chat. I just thought maybe if one thing about the movie I could have used a little bit more of, maybe more of Mantis and Peter together. I do think that, especially Mantis talking to Peter, like, go see your grandpa, go see your other family. But the revelation from the holiday special that Mantis and Peter are blood-related brother and sister, I would like to see more of them go on, maybe not wacky adventures, but at least them talk more about their feelings together.
Sure.
While Mantis does give a really good pep talk at the beginning of the movie, and that does drive Peter forward to seeing his grandfather at the end of the film, a lot of times, I think there was one time, I want to say it was on Counter Earth, where Peter says, me and Nebula are going to go there, or me and Groot are going to go there, you and Drax go there, And Mantis goes, but I want to go with you. I was like, yeah, bring Mantis with you. Talk more. I could have used a little bit more of that.
You bring up an interesting conversation about how Mantis talks to Quill about leaving his grandfather on Earth. I really like that moment because kind of in a metatextual way, it's James Gunn acknowledging something that I really wanted him to acknowledge. Gunn has always stated, why would Quill want to go to Earth? Why would he want to be on Earth? That's the place where his mother died. He'd never want to go back to Earth. And I really like that. I really like that the end of Quill's arc is where it goes. But specifically when Mantis and Quill are talking, Quill recounts the events that we've seen from Volume 1 as he threw me out of the room and yelled at me when my mother died. He got rid of me. He didn't want me. That's not what we saw, but that's what he remembers. And I really like how they frame that.
Right. Yeah. Because his memory is rewritten.
Yeah.
Like of based on like the fear and pain he was in at the time. So like he's changed his own conception of like, and that's not an accident on Gunn's part. Like that's on purpose, that it doesn't line up with what we saw. That is like for film purposes, objective truth, right? Like of what actually happened. Peter's memory of it is all broken up because like that was a traumatic moment, and like he's so far removed from it as a childhood memory. Like he's thought about it over and over and changed what it was, because in some ways it's easier to not be able to go home if you know you're not wanted there.
Yeah. And which makes it all the more powerful that his arc ends with him going to see his grandfather.
Yeah, I think that's really good.
I love that moment. I love that moment so much. I was a mess. Oh, by the way, his grandfather, Jason Quill.
That's fine.
I think that's cute. Nice way to bring in Jason.
Yeah. Man, I love Drax in this movie. I love him in all the movies, but like I love that like he's not quite as funny as he is in the second one. They've toned him down a little bit. But they've replaced that with just so much more emotion. Not that he was lacking it, but like this is probably my favorite Drax movie. And I just absolutely love the stuff of him and the kids. And like I think my favorite line in the movie is like, "You weren't meant to be a destroyer. You were meant to be a father." Oh my god!
That made me
I started crying for real. I was
Yeah.
like, "Damn it! This is the second Guardians property that made me cry." But with Drax, because that game also makes me cry because Drax is so good in that game. So phenomenal stuff.
I love how you still get great Drax moments, like when you hear like when Nebula is getting frustrated with the kids and all they're saying is "jub jub," and then Drax is speaking their language, and they look at, and because you hear Mantis go, "This language isn't my translator. I don't know what they're saying," and then Drax speaks to them. Is like, "Oh yeah, I warned them to stay away from the Starved Wall," and Nebula's like, "How come you didn't tell us that you knew I speak?" It's like, you didn't ask.
I really love what Ben's talking about, because like it speaks to Ryan Ben talking about specifically, like it speaks to that Drax has a much more emotional arc in this film, I believe, than in Volume 2. Not that he's not good in 2. It's just that in here there's a genuine sadness to him that his friends don't value him. They call him an idiot. They call him just the muscle, but there is more to him, and he wants to prove that. And he gets to, through these kids, becomes like a surrogate father to these children. I found that really, really emotionally challenging.
Yeah. I really like when Nebula says what you said, which is, like I see who you really are, that you weren't meant to be a destroyer, you're meant to be a dad. Is really effective and everything. I also really love the scene where Nebula is shouting at him and Mantis is challenging it, and she's like, "So what if he's stupid? So what about that? Like, he loves us, and he always supports us." And like the way Mantis gets emotional about it also made me emotional. Do you really think I'm stupid? And like as this brother sister thing, and like it almost would be like a cheap moment to make him forget, but like it's in some ways a blessing, because like you can't get around that like Drax has made decisions that have put them at risk and are not sensible, but it doesn't change the fact that he's important to them.
Mag in the comments, wish we get to know why Drax was a parent or his life before Ronan and Thanos. We get enough of that. I think we get enough of it, because like his species was wiped out by Ronan, sent by Thanos, and he was at least his family. And he talks about his family in both films to length. So I
remember his engorged like whatever for his wife, My
father used to tell me
nether regions would become engorged.
My father used to tell me the story of how they made me when I went to sleep.
Every winter solstice.
Yeah, Drax is really good in this film. Again, I will highlight, like, I would have just, like, I like everything this film is doing because it is, like, and I think very well, and I would never say, like, oh, James Gunn made the wrong decision in making the film the length that it is or anything like that, but because he is juggling, like, really rounding out character arcs on every single character in this film, it does make me kind of go, like, oh man, I would have watched, like, the 4-hour version of this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
Sorry. Were you done?
Go ahead.
Okay. No, I want to talk because we're talking about the relationship between Mantis and Drax, and another relationship I did want to talk about, even though we don't see it a whole lot, but it's a relationship that I think has grown quite a bit since Infinity War and Endgame, is Nebula and Rocket. Even though they don't get a lot of chance together, I love how hard Nebula is willing to go for Rocket. Which
one of the great moments is when Rocket wakes up. When he wakes up because he's been healed, and he says, "Where's Nebula?"
Mm-hmm. And that, to me, that's just, I mean, it's one of those great things. It's one of the times where a movie doesn't show us, they don't tell us, and the audience has to figure it out for themselves on how close Rocket and Nebula had become in the 5 years. Like, you see, like when Nebula and Tony land on Earth in Endgame, and Rocket just goes and holds her hand and is like, we're all that's left of the Guardians. And they become so close. And even there's this line that Nebula gives, is like when she blocks, I want to say she blocks Gamora punching, or it was either Gamora or someone.
It's Gamora.
Yeah, where she blocks Gamora, says it's like the Ronin gave me a few upgrades. Like, she's like, haha, look how stronger I am. But also she's like, that's my friend. F you, I'm helping him. It's essentially like, it's shit or get off the can sort of thing.
I love that, like,
well, because Gamora comes back, just real quick.
Yeah.
Gamora comes back with the, like, you'll drop me off because I'm family, and she's like, so is he. Yeah. End of discussion.
I love that Nebula clearly loves these people, but is still, like, kind of scared to show it. So she's kind of like Yondu, where she still will yell at them, be mean to them, but, like, you know that that hard exterior has, like, a nice coating inside. Like, I love that, like, at the end of the movie, it's just like, again, like, I was so surprised. Like, I knew it was probably gonna have some type of happy ending, but the fact that no character died in this movie and everybody gets a happy ending was kind of surprising, because that's not general. That's not. I didn't expect that with a James Gunn movie, and, like, because that's a guy I watch every interview that I can when these movies come out, but he's like, I am a guy known for killing characters when it makes sense to the story, and for my finale, I thought it should be a happy ending. I was like, that's fantastic. I love it.
I don't know if we're ready to talk about the ending just yet, because I do want to dive deeper into more of that, but I do want to talk about more about that. I don't know if we will have other stuff we want to talk about first.
I got a couple of things to talk about.
There's still some other things I'd like to cover beforehand. We haven't like praised, and he certainly deserves it, Chakotay Iwuji as the High Evolutionary.
Yeah.
His performance is incredible. I really, really love him. It's really great to have a scene chewing villain who just, like,
pure evil.
I'm not going to say enjoys being evil, because, like, to his mind, that's not what it is, but he really loves his work, which is evil.
Yes.
And, like, having him just so obsessed, and, like, he plays that so well. He plays this obsession so very well. And his many multitudes of, like, his rage, his pompousness, it's all really, really well put on display. I think he's very well written.
The compassion when Rocket does something good, and when you were like a captive of someone, like, you get Stockholm syndrome. So when you do something good, like, you're happy that they're happy for you.
Yeah.
So, like, when Rocket does something nice, he's like, oh, good job, B1923, whatever, and Rocket's happy about it when he shouldn't be, because he's still this guy's captive. But, like, he pleased his master, and his master's so happy, and I'm like, oh, it's just what a great vile person.
I think he's my favorite villain of the trilogy. Like, I really love Kurt Russell's ego, but, like, half the time he's kind of playing like the nice guy kind of thing, and I kind of love just, like, the full commitment to a real just like I'm a piece of shit.
I agree.
I'm very straightforward with what I want and what I care about. And what I care about is things that are heinous villain, and I think that that's delivered through his performance so well.
So, High Evolutionary reminded me a little bit of what you were talking about before with how it feels like the High Evolutionary is a more prevalent threat because you made the Sovereign that we were dealing with in the second film. I think that's really interesting because I wanted to mention that he feels like an inevitability. He feels like no matter wherever, like maybe James Gunn had the idea or not, from the moment we meet Rocket and he's got his shirt off when he's in the prison, from that moment, it feels like the High Evolutionary was always coming. He was always going to, he is inevitable. And it's very difficult to make a trilogy of movies with kind of a villain that harkens back to all, it was always me, to make it fit well, to make that puzzle piece kind of go in smoothly. And I think it works incredibly well for Guardians. It always feels like when Rocket is talking about his origins, when he's drunk, when he's talking, when Yondu is yelling at him, it always feels like it was the High Evolutionary.
Yeah. And this is the type of thing where, like, I don't think, like, you can start a trilogy with this movie. Like, I don't think you can start, like, we need to know Rocket for this long and know who he is and only have, like, the semblance of what his true origin is. I think if we would have started with this, like, started super grim, I don't think we could have worked up to something that this is this impactful. You know what I mean? Like, having known Rocket from the beginning, he's already this person, and seeing the trauma he's went through, we just have to like guess what he went through. It looks pretty rough, right? He's a raccoon who got turned into a cyborg killer. Waiting to see it like almost 10 years later, that's going to make watching the trilogy in reflection so much more powerful, because now we do know his origin and we didn't get it from the beginning. So like, it just feels like a perfect way to end a movie is with the start of your most important character. And it's just really cool that, like, this is a big movie with, like, relatively low stakes. Again, like James Gunn said, like, I did not want to do another Ego. Like, I love my movie, but I could not destroy the universe again. You do that 10 times in a row, your audience doesn't care anymore. So he's like, I needed to go back to Rocket because he's, you know, this will be my last Guardians movie. So, like, he needed to fulfill the personal journey as opposed to the giant journey.
And it's kind of what's so interesting about what you just said is that, like, it wasn't until after Volume 2 did James Gunn, like, really start talking about how he related to Rocket, how Rocket was always his favorite Guardian and things like that. He had mentioned it prior, I believe, but not to the extent that he started to really after Volume 2. And, like, that was always something I picked up on because I really like Rocket from the first movie. He was my favorite character coming out of that first movie. I really related to that character, to him, and I always was like, wow, I can't believe the character I relate most to is a raccoon. But, like, you really see it, that Rocket is the character, which is why in this movie, this is the lines, like, it was always your story, you just didn't realize it.
Yeah, right.
And I really like that moment. That was another moment when I cried when he sees Lila in the afterlife. Just like wild movie, man.
Yeah. There is maybe the best action scene in the MCU in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
The hallway
and
scene.
I heard the hyperbole online. I'm like, you guys love to talk big about every single movie. And then I saw that scene. I'm like, every movie likes to have a oneer these days. This one's
very good.
Very good.
Right.
Wow. The cuts are hidden pretty well. There's a lot of crazy things happening. It's all in a small space, so you're just like always moving around. Like, hot damn.
You really organically feature each Guardian.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Just incredible. I was like, oh man, yeah, people weren't lying. It was like shoving popcorn in my face, loving it.
Especially because, like, the movie is fairly light on, like, Guardian on villain action. There's a couple of smaller action scenes before we get to the kind of big, like, we're all together now, let's go kick some ass. And I thought that was an interesting choice too. The Groot and Peter, when they're just back to back killing all the people in the room, is
guns.
Awesome.
Love that scene.
And he does a swamp thing. He grows wings.
Oh yeah. It's the trend these days.
Fortnite.
Groot with wings is in Fortnite or Swamp Thing?
Groot
It
flies
is.
in with
Yep.
those wings in Fortnite.
I put
cool.
those wings on my poison ivy, so she sprouts petals or whatever.
I thought
That's pretty good.
the Fortnite folks are real happy with this one.
Yeah, they did good.
This is aged like fine wine.
Also, I just love how when Nebula, Drax, and Mantis are trying to get on the ship, you hear them like fly. You out of the corner
That's
of the
very-
screen. They fly
That's
out.
very good.
There's a lot of really good overt and subtle comedy throughout the film, and that's a good subtle one.
I love at the end everyone's just like, I thought you were on the ship. No, I'm not on the ship. Where are you? Like a lot of this like confusion.
Yeah.
A lot of that's
Everyone trying to predict the other's like bad plan.
Yes.
And then when Rocket wakes up and they hear Rocket's voice, like Drax, Mantis, and Nebula who aren't there, you just see their visual like happiness and like, oh my thank God.
Right. I was gonna say that's the thing that really like drives home the
Nebula,
the importance between Nebula and Rocket, and the connection is Nebula's reaction to it.
Like immediately starts like
because
crying,
of their 5 years just being the two of them.
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost my thought for a second. What I was going to say about the Guardians film that I like so much is that there's a lot of good needle drops.
Sure.
I won't go through all of them. They're just good.
Oh my God. The finale being Florence and the Machine's Dog Days Are Over.
Yeah.
I could not have picked, like, that is such an incredible song and such a beautiful, happy song.
I love it. I love that as a song choice. Friend of this podcast, Jeremy Vellucci, might not be as crazy about it when he sees it because he once described Florence and the Machine to me as an owl trapped in a wind chime shop. But I think it's pretty good.
I love owls.
I
love owls, Jeremy.
On a whole, I'll be honest, I wasn't too crazy about the needle drops in this movie. I think I need to go through it again though, and like really listen to it independently of this movie. Overall, I think I like the second film better, how the second film incorporates music. But there's nothing. I think it all fits for the narrative themes of the movie.
What I love most, or one of the things I do love about how music is still very incorporative with the Guardians, and also now that Peter has a Zune and they're still using it. One of the things I also do love is how broad the music is for the needle drops in this movie, because with the first and second one, you have a lot of 70s and early 80s hits. Nothing wrong, fantastic songs, but that's when Peter was growing up. That's when he was a kid. So of course those songs, or a lot of 70s heavy songs, are very much because that's all he had access to. And now that like he's listening to Florence and the Machine, or even the first post-credits scene where they're talking about
they bring back Come and Get Your Love.
Yeah, well, when they talk about like when they're talking like the new Guardians is like, hey, what about you? It's like, oh, Britney Spears, and then Krygon's like, oh, hey, Garth Brooks has not made a bad song. It's like they expanded.
Yeah, I do really like that throughout all the movies. You see the Guardians. They've all collectively just kind of started loving the music that Peter listens to. Like there's the beginning of Infinity where we meet them and they're all singing to Rubber Band Man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that that's kind of continued on and like comes to its zenith here, right? Like when everyone's dancing at the end, like they all have their moment.
I think it's one of the smart things of like they all love music, and like American Earth music really means a lot. And I think it's one of the better moments with the High Evolutionary where he's like, well, I made Counter Earth because like Earth is so singular in the way that it's created art and culture. There's just no other place like it in the galaxy. And I'm like, that's effective. That works. That's a good way to like center why Earth is so special amongst the other planets, is that like just art doesn't develop the same way anywhere else.
Earth is just unique that way. Yeah.
Mag says in the comments, one song choice that I'm happy with this is the day.
Creep opens it, and Rocket singing Creep. Rocket singing like a lot in this movie, which is fun. Again, it's like you just said, everyone loving music because of Quill now.
One of my favorite things about Bradley Cooper's performance with that is that he's not singing every line. No. Like he just comes in and out, which is like how you really feel.
Like when you're sad, listening to a sad song.
Bradley Cooper, because you brought it up, is incredible as always as Rocket Raccoon, and he really steps it up in this movie. He really meets this script where it is.
For sure.
I've always loved Bradley Cooper as Rocket, so I'm happy to get more. But speaking of music, Kaiju Groot's pretty good. I want to talk about music real quickly one last time, which is that I wasn't crazy about the score. This is my only other negative.
Oh yeah. Me either.
Yeah. It's
the overall score of this film is disappointing because I think the Guardians films prior to this had very good scores.
Because it's not the same
does
composer.
does the Guardians theme only show up once with that rocket scene?
Yes.
Twice? That's
Twice.
crazy,
There's twice, and the second time is when they're all taking all the kids in.
Oh sure. Oh, I didn't
into
even know
nowhere.
that.
It's very brief.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So the Guardians theme, real quickly, just to kind of get my thought out, like the Guardians theme is very good. I really like that. And I've always liked it from the first film, and I think Tyler Bates, who is the composer for the first two films, is very good and composed one of the better MCU themes, especially at the time.
Look, I'll take it one step further and say that I think both 1 and 2 of the Guardian scores are 2 of the best scores in the entire MCU.
Yeah. I'll back you up on that. So this film is composed by John Murphy, who was the composer for the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker,
and the Guardians Holiday Special.
And the Guardians Holiday Special. No one knows why Tyler Bates. I looked this up. Tyler Bates has not said why he didn't come back for 3. There is no reason that James Gunn has given that he didn't come back for 3. It's just for some reason he did not return for 3. And I think the film suffers from it, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I do. Like I think that the scores for the first 2 films are very, very strong, and this one like kind of is just there.
Yeah. I honestly, Brandon, I didn't even notice a score until that rocket with the Guardians theme pops up, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's music in this movie.
Oh yeah, there's a Guardians theme that should be playing.
Yeah, that's like halfway through the movie, and I'm like, oh yeah.
I don't want to say the needle drops completely took over me listening to the music, but now that I think about it, there wasn't a lot of parts where I was really trying to listen to the score of the movie, or mostly the needle drops kind of took over, and the score was just like there.
I really like the Guardians theme, and there's a few places in this movie that I expected it. The Groot and Peter back-to-back moment is one of them. Like where I was like, why isn't the Guardians theme playing right now?
Yeah, even like setting aside real quick, like just the Guardians theme. Like yes, I thought it should have been in this movie more. Good Lord, should it have been? It's one of the better themes in the MCU. But also, Tyler Bates just was better, I think, at crafting a musically entertaining world that connected with the Guardians, that worked well around the needle drops. Like it blended in well, and it fleshed out and gave a lot of character to the world of the Guardians. And this score is just kind of present.
Yeah.
If even that, like I'm kind of happy that we have so many needle drops, because it means that like we're not suffering from like just a complete lackluster score throughout.
Yep.
Yeah. That's my final negative though, so the rest is going to be happy.
I have one last negative, so I'll get it out of the way. I am all for Groot deciding not to kill the High Evolutionary. I have no problem with that. He's a freaking Guardian of the Galaxy. It's not what he does. I do kind of wish we saw how he got his comeuppance, though. The fact that we just leave him and move on, and don't see him like perish with it all blowing up or something like that, like in the ruin of his own creations or something like that. It's not even about that. It's just like, that is a character who I feel like I don't need my heroes to kill him, but I do need to see him like fall to the machinations of his own devices or something like that. Like
a Mando season 3 ending.
He's a character who deserves, like the audience does deserve, for every horrible thing he does throughout the film. Like we do deserve the justice of seeing him get his final comeuppance, whether that is like even him getting arrested and delivered to the Nova Corps, which I know it's not there. But like whatever that equivalent would be, like I don't care what it is, but like the fact that we just leave it at Rocket not killing him and then don't see him anymore, that doesn't quite land right for me.
Sure. Space jail. Take him to space jail.
Take him to the space raft.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that one. I want to say also that I want to say I really like the use of Rocket saying raccoon in this movie.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
The whole time, the whole movie is like, I'm not a raccoon, I'm not a raccoon, I'm not a raccoon. And then when he sees the other raccoons in the cage, that kind of like was like, no, my name is Rocket Raccoon.
I think part of why it's so good with where they use it is because like he says it to the High Evolutionary. It's like he's taking back something of himself that the High Evolutionary kept all this time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's retaking ownership of something the Evolutionary had been keeping from him. And I thought that was really good.
And I really like that that's kind of where, he sees how he sees how he used to be. He recognizes himself in these raccoon cubs, and he pups, I think they're called. And that's kind of his moment where he's like, wait, we can't leave all these guys.
Right.
They have to come with us.
Also, a great action beat is everybody essentially doing their own incredible Hulk, like smashing Loki into the floor on the high evolutionary. Like they just once they start on that like crowd beat up action scene, they just don't let up. He does not get to breathe. They're just all taking their licks at him because they all hate him.
And they ripped his face off because Rocket ripped his face off.
Even
what a good looking effect. Ew.
Yeah.
Even Gamora like gets her licks in. Like this is her fight too.
Yeah. Also the makeup, because she watched the video too. Like once they all have seen the screen of what Rocket was put through, they're all a little bit activated to be like, all right, this guy though.
Yeah.
Worse than what Thanos did to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Worse than what Thanos did to me. Yeah.
Quick little side change I want to talk about before I forget. I love how when Gamora gets back with the Guardians and when she hears Groot just say, I am Groot, everyone else can understand him and she can't. And not until the end of the movie when he says, I am Groot, she's like, oh shit, I understood you. I just love how we still hear I am Groot, but the general feeling and the like, we know what he's saying without him really saying it. And
right.
I love that.
Guys.
There's a sense that there's a lot of talk about like, what you do with your heart in both the second one film and this one. Kraglin sees Yondu, remind him
good use of Yondu.
Yeah, I agree. Really great moment where it like is like I use my heart, boy, what he told Quill. And you understand Groot not here but in your heart. Like that's how you understand Groot. And because like she let him in. She loves him, she's part of the family. She can understand him.
So, and I think like what's valuable about that is like I kind of wish I don't know how you do it because of just how Groot and Gamora are in this movie, but like for Groot, Gamora is a surrogate mom he lost. So seeing this Gamora is like there's a level of what this means for Groot, and like I think James Gunn does a very good job on all these character arcs. I think like, God, I just would have lived in like even doing more with all of it. Yeah. Like I just like all of it so much. I'm like, yeah, more.
I got a fun fact about the I Love You Guys from Groot. James Gunn confirmed that is because as an audience, we have spent enough time on Groot that we can understand his language now.
Which is what you and I suspected when we came out.
So that is we all speak Groot. So if Groot ever shows up again, he'll just be speaking normal like in the comics, which I don't know if I want, but
that might not necessarily be true. It just they could just go back to I am Groot.
Yeah, now that James Gunn is gone, fuck that guy, right?
Well, because like you're being led in on the family moment to hear that, and like we're not going to be with all of that family anymore. Like we're going to be with Phyla-Vell and Adam Warlock if we see Groot again. So like you're not necessarily granted that insight. I think it's an emotional moment that's meant to hit the way that I think it does. And I do think like I've seen people say like, oh, I wish I was telegraphed more. And I'm like, I think it's there in the sense that like none of the Guardians react to it like he said, I love you guys.
Yeah.
In a way that wasn't him saying I am Groot.
That's for the audience.
They all act like he just said I am Groot again.
Yeah.
It's you are hearing it.
Yeah.
Because you've been led. And I think James Gunn made a good choice with that. I think that's clear and evident and very solid.
I love it.
Yeah.
Very cute.
I was going to bring that up also. I saw that too. I really liked that moment. It did shock me, but like in a way I was like, oh, actually that's very, very sweet.
And also this last bit is just for me. Nebula turns into a badass version of Mega Man and Base. Anyways, moving on.
Who would we? Cosmo is in this movie.
Cosmo's in this movie.
Oh, we almost forgot like one of the best recurring jokes of the bad dog.
Say I'm not a bad dog.
Oh my God, what the best CGI dog of all time? Oh my God, I love Cosmo. Say I'm a good dog, please.
I really. There's a lot of characters that James Gunn has changed a lot of the Guardians characters. Like he almost overhauled them completely. And Cosmo could have been, but Cosmo felt the closest that a James Gunn adaptation has felt to me from the comics. Like it just felt like Cosmo was just popped off the page. And I was really happy about that because I really like Cosmo.
Sure. I think Rocket's pretty 1-to-1 too.
Yeah.
Seeing the telepathic dog is just always fun. What a good time.
Yeah.
Kaiju Groot was really cool. I really like that. I like that they yell out kaiju and he just goes big. That's
How
cool.
does he know what that word is?
Yeah, because they taught him.
I'm just kidding.
The because it's in the comments right now, and Sparks also brought up the post-credit scene. Introduces the ending of the film. The Guardians are disbanding. The Guardians as we know it are disbanding. And I kind of felt once Rocket was like out of commission for a lot of this movie, I was like, oh, we're not killing Rocket. They did get me. I did think they were going to kill Quill.
I did too. There's a point where every character, like they might die.
There's a part where for a moment I was like, yo, are we killing Drax right now?
Yeah, me too.
We get shot. Yeah, 100%. I thought this movie was going to be very different, where it's like, okay, we're going to kill multiple characters. That's because it's the end of the line. Who survives can maybe show up in the next Marvel thing, whatever. I'm not going to be here for it. The fact that he left everyone on the table is really, really nice. Like, not everyone has to go out just because you're leaving. Like, that's great.
And he gave them all a really interesting happy. Sorry, Ben, real quick. He gave them all a really interesting happy ending. We already talked about how what Mantis says to Drax, but like Drax becomes a surrogate father to these little kids that they rescued from the High Evolutionary. Nebula becomes like she starts running nowhere. And Rocket is made captain of the Guardians of the Galaxy to make his own team.
Right.
I really love the chest pound to Rocket when they all call him captain is so good.
Yeah, that was emotional. One of the things I want to praise this movie for, because going into it, I thought we were going to lose a few members of the Guardians, and the fact that all the Guardians not only made it out alive, but also they got really good endings for all of them.
Right.
I was just like, this is to me, this is something how you end it, because I feel, because in my I've only seen the movie once. In the short time since I've seen this movie, and I thought about it, I kind of feel like killing a few of them off would have been the easy way out.
Yeah.
Like, obviously the emotional gut punch would have been there. There would have been like it's everything's sad, we have to move on, or the Guardians aren't disbanded, but
there's something easy.
Ways.
Real quickly, Ben, there's something easy about killing a character for an emotional weight, and a lot of writers do, and not to begrudge any of them who do. But there's something a lot harder with making an ending where the characters don't die.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is a good analogy or not, but when Tony Stark made the sacrifice play, all of his movies in the Avengers films were leading up to Tony making that play. The snap to beat Thanos. That makes sense. Because it started and ended with Iron Man, or at least in the terms of the MCU. But with the Guardians, I felt like it would have been a really cheap not a cheap knockoff, but it would have just felt a little cheap on how, like, say Drax, Quill, and Peter died, because then Peter doesn't get his he doesn't go back to Earth, which he obviously does, or Drax doesn't get a chance to be a surrogate dad, or even or if like Rocket were to die, we don't get to see.
Well, sure. Like the main point is that Gunn would be willing to kill characters if he felt like there was a good story reason to do it. There just wasn't to him. He's like, why? What would be like if there was? I'm sure if he thought of something, we would all find it very effective, and like that was a really good way to like. I'm sure he could have done that. Like that's how he felt when Groot died the first time. Right. So like, or Yondu in the second film. So like I know he could do it. Yeah. But it's that he didn't feel like forcing it on himself just because like Dave Bautista will never play Drax again. Doesn't mean that he had to like find the narrative reason if he didn't think there was one to kill Drax.
That's just like this is like the narrative in your mind, because like that's what most regular people would do, but James Gunn's not most people.
Right. Like Marcus and McFeely would have killed Drax for
sure.
100%.
Oh yeah.
So Rocket kind of that kind of final dance sequence at the end when they're all dancing and nowhere. Mantis goes off to discover herself with the three tentacle monsters.
Oh, the obelisks. Yeah, that's fun. Obelisks. This is like kind of like a full circle movie from like Volume 1, Volume 2 stuff too. That's great.
Yeah. I like that. I love the wave goodbye and then the whistle and then they all follow her.
I love when she's like riding an obelisk over. She's like, "Go my babies, go my babies."
Or when she said she gets off, I was like, "Did that look cool?"
Oh yeah, that happened a couple times.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sparks.
No, I was just gonna say I think that like their goodbyes and farewells are all done really well in a sense where everyone's kind of getting a happy ending and like a bright future to go off towards, and it's still like you can get. I cried but I cried out of happiness, for where the characters are.
Oh my god,
are at, because like you can have that emotional response without having to be like sad about shit.
I definitely I love like a good sad cry is great, but like when you can make me cry out of happiness, and it doesn't happen as often, but like when you can, like that's powerful, man. And this movie did it. Like I was crying in the finale, everyone dancing. Groot's a terrible dancer. I love it.
So the end, the mid-credit scene introduces what could potentially be the next Guardians of the Galaxy team.
Yeah.
They can go with that or not. But there's some really interesting moments there. Groot looks like his older comic book appearance, which was really cool.
Yeah.
I liked that. And they introduce, so Mag said in the comments, they introduced Phyla Vel, Moondragon, in a kind of roundabout way. One of the things that I was disappointed about by making Drax not human and have a murdered family was that we would potentially never get Moondragon in the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just kind of erases that whole character.
For a second, like, and I know like Moondragon's like bald or whatever, but for a second I thought that's what they were doing with like, oh, like this adopted kid, and like, oh, it's gonna be Moondragon, but like it's Phyla Vel, and that's cool. It's like why?
Yeah. So, but like they make Phyla a surrogate daughter for Drax, not a biological daughter for Drax. And that's cool. I'm really happy that Phyla is on the table now. Honestly, because I like that character a lot, and it's not without merit to say that it's a little weird that this is the third queer character that Marvel has cast as a child.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting trend. Don't know how long it's going to continue, but we'll see.
Well, let's see if they even use Phyla at all.
That's a good point.
Very Thor Love and Thunder energy with this one too. Like, we're bringing a kid into the group, which is fine. It's just like 2 movies did that, and I'm like, that's interesting.
But that mid-credit scene was actually really confusing to me when we get to the very end of the movie, which is the legendary Star-Lord will return. In big letters. I really thought, and I kind of feel like it should have been, the Guardians of the Galaxy will return.
Well, maybe they don't know that right now, though.
They only know they got Chris Pratt.
Well, but that's what I'm saying, because like, even Chris Pratt has talked about he's probably doesn't want to come back if Gunn's not behind the wheel, and like that's fine. But for me, it kind of feels like the safer bet, because like no matter what, like I would buy that a version of the Guardians of the Galaxy would show up before Star-Lord did.
I don't know about that. He's on Earth now, so
it's a lot
easier
involved
in any Earth thing.
It's a lot easier for Chris Pratt to show up on Earth than to CGI a bunch of people in space. Okay, in terms of just Hollywood making easy things, you know, like.
Okay, well, I'm wrong, I guess.
No,
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying
the movie ends with the legendary Star-Lord, which means like they had to have talked to Chris Pratt or something where they have an idea that Star-Lord.
That's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true. So the reaon why I do bring it up is you know, I don't want this to be a whole thing. But like the thing that I'm rubbing up against with it is it feels like what happened at the end of Thor: Love and Thunder, where it says Thor will return, and Chris Hemsworth said, "I never said that."
Yeah.
And so it feels very much like, oh, we're saying this. But for me, again, the safer bet sounded like a version of the Guardians. You could just say the Guardians of the Galaxy will return, and it could be whoever. It could be anyone.
I agree. I don't know if the studio is thinking about the next Guardians movie quickly. Is just what I'm saying. So like maybe like they're thinking, hey, we can get something with Chris Pratt related faster than Guardians. So like people like, you know, I have seen people online, again, I don't agree with them. People don't like this team. It is a brand new team. There's a little girl they've never met. You know, there's Adam Warlock, who some people don't like. So like a lot of people don't like this team.
Nobody liked the Guardians either. In the beginning,
I think it is weird. The Chris Hemsworth thing of like, I didn't say I was going to return. Like that is weird. But him being on Earth makes it seem like, Chris Pratt will show up in a cameo for something. Like, you know, I don't know.
Bare minimum, like when Secret Wars stuff is popping off, he'll be there. So like,
oh, sure, I'm sure everyone's gonna.
Sure,
that's
but I mean, like, but like he's right there. He's gonna be literally right there on Earth with other folks. So like, it's easy to incorporate his character. I think the other point of it is like not saying that the Guardians of the Galaxy will return, because like in a sense they won't, as you know them. So like, yes, that team that we see in the post credits could show up, but like leaving the finality of like what this film feels like, regardless of the fact that we can see that team in the future, not leaving it hanging on like what is, like, not even like entertaining the like, so that means like Nebula could be like, obviously yes, of course she could, but like not presenting it in a way where it's setting you up for that idea, but just letting it sit on, this was the end of this Guardians of the Galaxy story, and we don't need to put a like asterisk or comma on that. This is for all intents and purposes in the moment the end of the Guardians of the Galaxy, regardless of the fact that there's a team.
Maybe just don't stop doing this thing where you're saying someone's going to return if you don't know if they're going to
That
return.
I would have been
maybe
fine
just
with.
don't do that.
Yeah.
We spent far longer on this than I think we should have.
Okay. Sorry.
Well, no.
I just wanted to get my 2 cents on it.
No, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you guys on the stream. I'm gonna be honest. The reason why I'm acting like this is because in the beginning, when I first said it, the both of you sounded very dismissive towards me, and that, whether or not that was your intent, that's how you sounded to me. Sure. Later, that got better, but that already put me in this mood, and I'm sorry about that.
I'm sorry, Brendan. I want you to know my tone of voice might just sound like dismissive. I've never once been dismissive on purpose, so I'm sorry if it seemed that way. We are just having a conversation where sometimes opinions don't align.
I recognize your point. I just didn't feel the same rub about it. I think like just having the post-credit scene of knowing that Guardians team is out there.
But that kind of bugs me because like I didn't want to. It wasn't a rub to me. Like I didn't want you to think that it was. I feel really bad about that because like it wasn't. It was just a tossed point that I kind of regret bringing up because it wasn't even worth two more sentences in my thought, and now it's become a whole thing. And I don't know. Like it shouldn't have become a whole thing.
No, it's fine. Like it really is fine. Like I just was. We talked about this too. Like this was something we spent most of the driving home talking about after the movie. Is like, who do you think's still on the table? And the answer was pretty much like, yeah, I think everybody except for Drax. Yeah. like honestly, like everybody's still on the table to appear.
Like I just don't think like again like maybe having Star-Lord be the one to say they return is not the best idea. But like there is a world where all these characters can come back, and I just don't know if it's initially going to be a Guardians thing.
I will say, like, to the point of just like talking about post-credit scenes, I don't mind like inherently what the post-credit scene about Quill is about, but I was just like, this isn't a very good joke.
No, it wasn't very funny.
I thought it would be something a little bit more fun than what it was. Like
just him eating cereal, and I got that was cereal corn.
I don't know. I kind of wanted like when I do like that, like the grandpa's like, don't even get me started, and then Quill's all just like, I kind of do now. I just wish that had a little bit more of a punch to it after that, rather than just like and scene.
I do like that. Like the trilogy starts with like him and the grandpa, and it kind of ends with him and the grandpa. Like I think that is.
To be honest with you, in terms of like, I understand like thinking about how long audiences sit in the credits at this point, but I probably would have flipped them. Like I would have gone out on the high of the last beat with the Guardians team rather than like the kind of like of the Star-Lord beat. I would have gone out on the high of the team, and like, you know, who knows when we'll see them again, but like they're out there. We know they're doing stuff.
There's definitely a guy behind us who did like that post-credit scene at the end. He was like, we waited for that.
There was a bunch of people behind us who like, I didn't give a shit what they thought.
Honestly, I couldn't understand what Peter was saying.
Oh, really? At the end? Yeah. So he's like saying, I mean, like, I'll go over and like do the lawn, but he's like 42 years old. Like, why is he just watching me mow the lawn for her? He's talking about some neighbor and like her son, and that he's mowing the lawn and like the son is not helping. And he's like, it's just like, he can get up, he can do something. And he's like, don't even get me started.
Do you know who the
conversation?
Do you know who the grandfather is, Sparks?
Yeah, I forget the actor's name, but I know like from you're talking about the grandpa.
Yeah, from Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
Well, he's not from Gilmore
like
Girls.
Every other James Gunn movie.
He's in the first one. Like yes. He's the boss man dad on Gilmore Girls. Yeah.
I will.
Oh, real quickly on that, just one quick like note. he's reading a paper, and it's Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon.
Talking about the events of the holiday special. That's awesome.
No,
That's good.
I was gonna mention that because while I couldn't understand what Peter was talking about to his grandpa, when it closes up, it's like, "Oh, don't get me started," and you see a headline: Kevin Bacon abducted by aliens. I'm like, hey, abductions.
Tells all.
Ben, did you have something in your ears?
No.
I was like, we were at the same screening, right?
Yeah, we were at the same screening.
Sure. Maybe I want to get your ears checked, bro, because that's a lot there.
I just couldn't understand what they were talking about.
Sure,
that's fine.
He was doing a little bit of mush mouth, but he was eating cereal, so I'm sure it was mushy. I do want to talk about like there's this sight gag we didn't really touch on that I just thought was very good. Like I think it happens in 3, so it's very funny. Mantis just can't land Nod on her head.
Oh yeah, multiple times breaking her neck. Oh my god!
And I thought it was really funny. Just every time it happened, she's boom.
There's the one in the jail cell. There's a crack. You hear a neck crack.
Yes. This whole the whole sequence here of her like just like I feel like it's there just the right amount to like be funny, but they're not like it's not the focus of the scene.
Yeah.
It's like people aren't talking about it or like making points about it or jokes about it. Like she just is sloppy in her landing and execution.
Just
To that point. To the point of that also, like the neck cracking thing made me think of this. The hallway scene, like the hallway scene is exceptional for a lot of reasons. Nebula in particular, where her head gets like bent backwards.
Oh my gosh.
Arm bent and she's still like fighting through everything.
She quick reassembles. Ew.
Nuts. Good year for No Sleep Till Brooklyn, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my god, Chris Pratt back to back.
Yeah.
So, anything else?
I could probably talk about it for a lot longer because there's just like a lot to love about it. And get into, but no, I'm gonna say I'm satisfied.
This is not a negative. I'm happy that like this being the final like big space movie, like Guardians movie, like it didn't feel like it was overwhelmed with like cameos and like Easter eggs. Like there wasn't a lot of Easter eggs really. And like that's not a bad thing. Like sometimes movies can just be movies. It's really nice. Like it was just I'm enjoying a thing. I'm not looking out for every 5 seconds. Like it was great.
Something I do love a lot is Rocket being more important to Peter in this movie. Like how directly that comes across. In defense of like the second film, like it's only 3 months after the first film. This is years and years later, and like the way Peter feels about Rocket as his best friend, and I even like the bit about Drax being like second best friend.
Yeah.
But that like emotionality and like how desperate, that's something that's really good about this movie. It's just like I feel the desperation of the Guardians to save Rocket, and it makes the film so tense. Like they're just on their back foot the whole time, and those personal stakes. And I feel like that's just it's very, very effective how they brought that out of the character interactions because of the story that he structures them around.
Oh my gosh, do you know how much time has passed between Volume 2 and Volume 3?
So much.
It's 12 years.
It's 12 years.
It's 12 years. I can't believe that. Man, Endgame.
I mean, we talked about it like when Infinity War came out, like it was 4 years between Guardians 2 and Infinity War, and like we meet the Guardians at a very different spot, and then add the 5-year time jump, and then add some time has passed since Endgame.
Marcus and McFeely do not know how to write these characters.
No, I will say I do like their Rocket.
Their Rocket's good.
I think their Rocket is pretty good, but I don't like their Peter. Like
I don't like their Rocket as much in Infinity War when he's like directly interacting with Quill. There's something off in the way that they interact there, and I think that's all the more pronounced to me like looking at this film about what their relationship is supposed to be, the like captain challenging bullshit that they're doing in that movie that I'm like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, because what's so interesting is because like Marcus and McFeely were bouncing off of what Guardians 2 was doing, and so like it doesn't really feel like any time has passed between Guardians 2 and Infinity War. They're still kind of in that like competing captain place, and I'm like, that's just not. There should have been some growth here,
right? But then at the same time, they have characters that are written like decently well to convey that, like Gamora and Peter.
Yeah,
how far they've come in their relationship. So like there are aspects of it, but like there's also aspects of it missing. Yeah.
And to Ryan's point, real quickly, just like it's really nice that the Guardians films has always been really divorced from the MCU. Like they do feel like their own corner of the MCU, and so you don't expect to kind of go in with like a bunch of cameos and things like that. Like it's really nice that it's just capable of maintaining its corner, and the only time it encountered the other one is through a crossover. And so that it's just nice that the trilogy, because of that, feels like a cohesive whole.
And man, like James Gunn is, again, never made a bad movie, but now that he's like spearheading like all of DC stuff, man, like I'm so excited
for sure.
Not just for his own projects, but like the type of person he is overseeing everything else. Like we're in such good hands for the next like decade over there.
Yeah.
Shall we final thoughts and rate?
Yes.
Yes.
Because I have to go to the bathroom again because I drink a lot of water. I will give this movie a 9 out of 10. I think it's fantastic. Love it. It's like this is the best MCU trilogy, like one of the best like film trilogies. Like it's like I'm so happy that I was going in expecting like going to be a really sad like we're just going to murder everyone because that's what I do, and like no, like we're going to have a happy ending for everyone, and like everyone's going to get to have a great life, and that makes me really happy. So I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. I can hear you guys through the bathroom. Don't worry.
Sparks, rate it.
Well, hold on. I'm gonna mute.
Oh, he muted him too. He muted him. He muted himself. There we go. Yeah. So Ben, why don't you final thoughts and rate it?
Easy. 10 out of 10. Oh yeah. Even though I think of some of the negatives, and the negatives you guys have are 100% valid. This might be the same thing with the Super Mario Brothers movie, where my rating might change upon a second or a third viewing, because I've only seen the film once. But as of right now, how hot I was coming out of that movie, how much I would think about now, even with talking with you guys about it, I still say that the negatives that you guys have, or the negatives I have, even inconsequential. This movie is a fun thrill ride from beginning to end. It does give you a few good gun punches, does make you want to cry. I wanted to cry. I was like, especially at the end when they were dancing to Florence and the Machine, is like, I'm going to start crying. It just, the fact that everyone got a happy ending, the fact that the endings for the characters made sense, that felt good. It was just like a big cherry on top of an amazing intergalactic cake. 10 out of 10, best Marvel trilogy.
All right, Sparks.
Yeah, I can go. I'd also give it a 10 out of 10. I hold it very close to Volume 2, if maybe not surpassing it. And it's an excellent film, despite like what I might say, most of my negatives revolve around just wanting more of what the movie's already giving me in greater loads, just because I'm selfish. And I want more time with all the characters, and I want more of these arcs fleshed out because they are so good. So for me, 10.
Yeah, all right. Well, so like, look, it's exactly the movie I wanted it to be. I needed it to be. It's Rocket's movie. It is him in the forefront, and I love everything they're doing with Rocket and his arc. I think it's beautiful. I was a wreck through a lot of this movie, just constantly crying. Even so, I will give it a 9.5. For me, it is right up there with the second film. It's very good. I wish it was perfect, but 9.5 is a damn good movie. I'm happy. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with this trilogy. I'm happy with Rocket, and I can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah, it's definitely not perfect. It's not a perfect movie, but it is for me a 10.
Yeah,
it still is.
Shall we go into our book club then?
That'll do.
Gwar!
All right, so we are going from Guardians to Guardians. Ben, take it away.
So before we start, I have a question for you guys. When you got to issues 3, 4, and 5, were they like a completely different story, or was it still the same Avengers arc?
Yes,
that's what this is a team up book. That's what their single issue anthology stories.
They're team up issues.
Yeah, that's what this type of story is.
Yeah, so you have different writers and artists on these things.
Yeah, it's an anthology.
Okay, good. So, because
I'm so glad that you waited to ask us until it was too late to have changed it.
God.
My book club is Guardians Team Up, which the first 2 issues were written by Brian Michael Bendis and a bunch of other writers whose I'm trying to get the names for, but unfortunately, the website I have does not have them all up. So I apologize.
Ben, we'll help you. Go ahead and talk through your stuff.
Yeah. So essentially, like Spark said earlier, like we said, this is the first volume, Guardians Assembled, is where the Guardians team up with a bunch of other superheroes. The first 2 issues are with them, the Avengers. Then they go help out Ronin, She-Hulk, and even the Pet Avengers. And essentially, it's just a fun romp with Guardians characters helping out other superheroes. What did you guys think about this one?
Real quick, so yeah, Bendis did the first arc, and then we got Sam Humphries and Mike Mayhew on the Black Vortex arc, and then we got John Layman and Otto Schmidt on the She-Hulk stuff, and then we got a cool Rocket story by Andy Lanning and Andy Schmidt and Gustavo Duarte. I mostly had a good time at this, Ben. The Black Vortex one is an awful event, so I'm glad you guys will only ever read 1 issue of it, and it's this issue.
Yeah, I did like Black Vortex.
It's not a good event. Also, I love when I'm reading all the books and I'm like, oh, this book is part 6 in the event. When I'm not reading any of the books, y'all just jumped into part 6 of an event you don't know you've never read. So I'm sure that was like bananas.
Well, what's so funny about that is I when I saw that I was like, oh, the Black Vortex event. It's probably not collected in the trade. We probably don't have to read it, but it is. It's in the damn trade.
Yeah, and that's weird. That's the only weird one is the Black Vortex issue. I don't know why. It's because it's a Guardians team up, so like it is in the comic, but like. It's weird. It's weird.
So when I was trying, so a little backstory. When I was trying to pick a Guardians book, I was looking at Guardians books that we haven't read and I haven't read at all. And one volume that came up was Cosmic Avengers. But then I found that the whole storyline of Cosmic Avengers was jumping through a whole different type of books. I'm like, I don't want to do that. And then I saw Guardians Team Up and it said issues 1 through 5, volume 1. I'm like, oh, there we go.
Yeah,
what cohesive story, or at least the beginning of a cohesive story. When I got to issue 3, I was so confused.
Yeah,
and I also do agree the Black Vortex part was not that good, and I will be honest here, I skimmed it.
Yeah, that's fair.
How dare you? This is your book club. All right, real quick, let's do these in their pieces, shall we? So like 1 and 2, the Bendis story.
Well, what'd you think of them overall? Because we've been giving our initial thoughts.
Well, sure. I liked 4 out of 5 of them.
Yeah, I liked none of them.
Wow, none?
Wow.
Oh, I liked one of them. I liked the Pet Avengers one.
Yeah, Pet Avengers are pretty cute.
All right.
Let's get into it.
I personally, I'm a big fan of Arthur Adams. I love his old school look. I love the way he draws Rocket. Because it just looks like it's like a really realistic looking Rocket. I love it.
It's a good style.
Yeah, I love his facial expressions. I just love the way he draws like kind of blocky, sexy people. This was a fun one. Yeah.
Look, I love when the ship flies by the Avengers Tower and Hawkeye is trying to eat.
Yes.
He just looks out, just head down. Oh,
yeah.
God.
This is a Avengers Guardians team up book. This was 2 issues. This was a good fun time. Just nothing crazy. Just like, hey, we're gonna have these guys team up.
I really like the same page that I'm sure you do, which is about Jessica being like, all right, the raccoon is talking. That's it. I guess that's my line. I didn't know it, but that's my line. I'm out.
I didn't know what my line was until now. You can do this without me. I haven't done laundry in 3 weeks.
Yep.
That's great.
I think my personal favorite is or my personal favorites were She-Hulk and the Pet Avengers.
I love the She-Hulk one.
Those were my favorites.
That's so
too. Fun. But we are still just talking about the first 2 issues right now.
First 2 issues.
Any of your thoughts on the first 2 issues?
Apparently he has none.
No, I do. First 2 issues, I thought it was a good like set of like, the Guardians meeting the Avengers, and even like when some of the I want to say it was Gamora was like, wait, where's so and so? I was like, we go through roster changes. Not everyone's here all the time. A few of us.
Yeah.
Of course, when Jessica is like, nope, I'm out. Well, like when she flies away, and even the part where Sparks mentioned about, to me, when Hawkeye looks over, he's eating his cereal and he just sighs and lays his head down. He's like, great, I gotta leave. I gotta go to work. To me, that's like classic Bendis writing right there, or Bendis comedy in a sense.
I love this Avengers team because this is the Hickman's Avengers World team, where it is just like the Justice League Unlimited. It is like 100 different Avengers, and they're just constantly, every arc it's rotating out. We read a Shang-Chi arc in Secret a while ago, a long time ago. Yeah.
I really what draws me to the first 2 issues is mostly the paneling, more than anything.
It's so good.
I think the art paneling in these first 2 issues is just really good. So
yeah, you got a big, a cool splash page of all the event. Oh, come on, baby! Of all the guys assembling, and then Rocket's like, what does Rocket say? Guardians it's not the same.
Yeah,
I don't know, that was pretty good. I got a page here. Oh yeah, there's like a paramedic and a cop, and they're like, oh, we should call someone about this. You're supposed to call the Avengers, but I think these are the Avengers. Nuh-uh, I think that is. Is that Iron Man? That's a raccoon.
That is a raccoon.
That is a raccoon. That one got me good.
I don't. So one of the things that kind of hurts this book for me is that I don't really like this Avengers team. Specifically, what Brian Michael Bendis did with the Avengers was, I know it happened before the movie, but they adhered very close to what the movie was going to be. And I never, that was that's my like gap in Guardians, because I've read most of the Guardians runs, but like that point of Guardians, I was like, it's not really working for me.
Sure, I think that book it looks better than anything because David Marquez does the art. That book's totally fine though. But this first arc, it's just a good time,
And there's the 3rd issue.
And then there's the 3rd issue.
Black Vortex.
The Black Vortex. Yeah, I got. Did I take any pictures of the Black Vortex?
Yeah, I think you have this one.
Oh, that is.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was.
We like this. This is good art.
Which one is it? Which one is it?
This is where all the Avengers Guardians team up, of them assembling.
That's from the 2nd issue.
That's from the 2nd issue.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Black Vortex deals with all the space stuff with Beast and shit.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay.
Black Vortex, like, don't include the 6th part of an ongoing event in your trade. Just don't do that.
It's unfortunate because it's technically issue 3 of the books, but it's a dumb crossover. It's awful.
But they've elected to not include certain single issues that break up the story before, and it's only been like when you wait for like the complete editions that you get the sequential issues. But it's so weird that it's here.
There is. I did take one picture of the Black Vortex issue. It's Beast. Oh, you're not gonna be able to see it. It's Beast over like broken space, and he's like, it's broken. It broke the fabric of space time. That's a good looking page. The art in that issue is real good.
I like Beast being like, oh no, I did it. I ruined it.
Take accountability for once, Hank McCoy. Thank you.
I also like Thrall showing up, all Sinestro like.
Oh yeah, Thrawn. Thawne.
Yeah,
Thawne. His Thanos' son, who I think most people have kind of forgotten about these days, but one day I'll rewrite him back into canon.
Isn't it Thane?
Thane. Thawne, Thrawn are all wrong. It's Thane. You're right. Thane. That's
I will agree that art was pretty cool, because when I was like, oh, that's neat, and then I was like, I have no context for any of this.
Ebony Maw shows up.
I do like Ebony Maw because I did read after this, like some of the Infinity stuff. But like he basically becomes like a Thane's like master apprentice. He's like, I'm gonna help you become the best Thanos you can be. And I don't think it works out.
All right, 4th issue.
Let's talk about Gamora and She-Hulk. Oh god, green screens are awful. Look at that. I love it. It looks like Spider-Man actually right there. That's pretty cool. I thought this issue was a ton of fun.
I really like this because, like, to me, I was like, okay, so this is a Disney Plus special right here.
For real.
Just do one single special. Gamora, as like working with Ravagers, has someone hunting her, ends up on Earth.
Yeah.
Gets confused with She-Hulk.
There's more than one Green Lady in New York City.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I love the pretense of this story. I love it being like, why would it be that hard? It's full of like pink fleshy people. Go get her. How hard could it be?
Yeah.
Cut to Jen Walters walking around all She-Hulk style, like, oh boy, good antics are about to ensue.
God, the art, Otto Schmidt's art is always awesome. Great. What's it called? Brandon, you brought up the other like vignettes or like shadows, like when you can tell someone's dang.
Oh,
like
you mean? Well, shoot.
Oh, you know Optimus Prime. When you see somebody,
Line art?
Silhouette.
Thank you. Silhouette. I think he does good. He has good dynamic posing for silhouettes.
I didn't know if that was the word you were looking for because you said silhouette.
Did I say silhouette?
Yeah, you did earlier on, and
I was looking for a harder word.
I heard him say vignette. I'm like, what's a vignette?
He said vignette, silhouette, and I was like, he said silhouette. What word?
I need a harder Scrabble word. We got there in the end, y'all. yeah, this is just a fun one issue. This absolutely can be like a 1 hour, like Gamora's lost in New York and meets up with She-Hulk and oopsie poopsie. Like,
right, yeah. I just love when she gets dressed up like Gamora and they turn it on this like guy who's like, his whole thing is like cloning copies of himself, and so like they've got these two throwing him off his game with the cloning thing. This is also like one of my favorite art pieces, which is not going to show up at all because like, you know, a lot of green, but it's the when she's slashing down the blade, you see his eye reflected in it, and she's saying you know, do you want to deal with this, the deadliest women in the galaxy?
The deadliest women? Hell yeah, love it.
I also just
like
love
this
like
issue actually.
I actually also love one of the parts of the beginning where Jen is on the phone with her, with paralegal Angie, and she's like, "Hey, how come there's a police report of you fighting in Central Park right now?" And Jen's like in the middle of a crosswalk going, "I'm what?"
Yeah, I think it's just a fun idea, and like the art's really good throughout. So I would very quickly give up money to watch Tatiana Maslany and Zoe Saldana do this this story essentially as a special. I think that's like what the Disney Plus specials feel like they're there for, is some goofy ass thing like that.
Absolutely.
You hear that, Marvel? Do it.
Well, after the writer's strike.
After the writer's strike, yeah.
Unless you've already written it and it's filmed and we just don't know about it.
Is it time to talk about Vulture Von Doom?
I love Vulture Von Doom so much.
The pets of the Evil Masters.
That was funny.
I love Vulture Von Doom. I love that. I don't know why.
I love that Dr. Doom gets like so much representation, because not only is Vulture Von Doom like the leader, also Tiger Wilde, Dr. Doom's pet tiger, is also in the bad group. So Dr. Doom's just like killing it, baby.
One of my favorite gags in this is Cosmo talking with Rocket. It's like, there have been tons of incredible monitoring heroes, like Tuatu, the cosmic owl.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty good.
The cosmic worm.
That killed me. Tuatu, the cosmic owl.
Yeah.
That was very funny.
Honestly, the scene that got me is the famous dogs playing poker riff with all of the Marvel pets, and Throg is just there. I love that. Like, Rocket's just trying to get his beer. He's just trying to enjoy a brew while doing monitor duty. He finds Cosmo with the rest of the pets, and Lockjaw has the beer in his mouth. I'm like, that's hilarious.
I like that Cosmo or Rocket's like, how could you keep this from me? And it's like, it never really came up. It's a superhero tradition. You're not really a superhero. Like, oh.
I really love seeing the Pet Avengers. I think it's a really fun idea, tying Rocket with the Pet Avengers. I love Cosmo. I love Lockjaw. Throg is here. I like Red Wing.
Yeah.
Is here. Like that's really fun issue. I thought.
My favorite of the evil pet masters is Bitey McSpidey Bite, the mutant radioactive spider that bit Peter Parker. Right. He's just in this team. I think that's fantastic.
For a second, I was like, "Who the hell is Bitey McSpidey Bite?" And then I was just like,
it's really funny because they all have their villains in the back, like the villain that they're associated with in the background, but the spider bite is just Peter Parker from the
nerdy ass 15-year-old Peter Parker.
Honestly, just the fact that they named him Spidey McSpidey Bite is like, that's like when kids get. I remember this thing where kids got to name an emu or name an animal, and they call him Spazzy McGee or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bodie McBoatface. Absolutely.
Bodie McBoatface. I remember Bodie McBoatface.
Rocket feels very in tone with the way Bradley Cooper has him in the movies. For this particular issue. I
definitely heard the voice.
Yeah, I like when Lockjaw gets him his beer at the end.
Yeah,
gets him an 8-pack this time, not a 6-pack.
He shares it.
So cute.
He's a good friend.
Cute.
Even when they take the mask off Vulture Von Doom, he's like, "I'm hideous." He's like, "Well, you're a vulture. What do you expect?"
Yeah, right. You just look like a vulture.
Yeah, that's fun. All right, is that it?
Yeah.
Cool. Ryan.
Sorry about Black Vortex.
Ryan, it's your book club next week. Do you know what it is?
Hot dog. I don't know what it is.
Oh,
are we?
Right.
What's the topic next week? Do we know yet?
Indiana Jones.
All right, I'll think of something archaeological.
Indiana Jones. Did they make Indiana Jones comics?
I'm sure, but we're not going to read them. I'm going to pick something.
There are Indiana Jones.
I'll pick some cool Image comic that's about.
Dark Horse had them.
Jonathan Jones.
Dino Destiny's not coming out next week, is it?
No, we're doing Indiana Jones 3 and 4.
Oh,
That would have been what a summer, banger after banger after banger.
I can't handle that. Are you kidding me?
I was
too much.
I was like, are we doing the movies or is it Down Destiny? I thought that came out.
I have to say
There's a
goodbye to
calendar
Rocket.
and a schedule.
I have to
I'm
say
still-
goodbye to Rocket and Indiana Jones in the same year, in the same month. Don't make me do
We
that.
went over it before you left.
Sparks, in my defense, I'm still have vacation brain.
Ben,
Sure.
next week is actually Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. It's finally out.
Then you have to watch 2 Indiana Jones movies this week.
Oh man,
I can do that. That's fine.
Oh, gee willikers.
Oh no.
Whatever
Well,
will I do?
The horror.
And then Ben, in 2 weeks you're gonna have to watch 2 Mission Impossibles.
hell yeah! Oh, I'm so excited to do those.
I'm jazzed as hell to be doing Indiana Jones. I love Indiana Jones, but like, man, finally getting Ben on Mission Impossible hype, that's gonna be so good.
Hell yeah!
Because I still haven't forgiven Ben for going like, you know what wasn't the best trailer of the week? Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. It was Thor Love and Thunder for me.
Hey there, audience members. We're about to be wrapping up here, and you've just heard us talk about the fact that we're talking about some Indiana Jones movies this coming week.
Sure.
So we're talking about The Last Crusade and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Well, dear listener / viewer, you may be wondering, but wait, haven't you talked about Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom? Don't you need to do that first? Well, I'm here to tell you, you should check out our channel this week, where, of course, our discussion will release as a cinephile, discussing those very films before we come back on Sunday to talk about 3 and 4. So get all your Indiana Jones in this week, friends.
It feels like you just blacked out and became Rob Zapney. I'm not gonna lie. He sounded just like the Waypoint guy, and I love that.
All right. Well, so next week, Indiana Jones 3 and 4, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and The Last Crusade. Looking forward to that. So that's that. That's it. That's everything we got. Stay tuned for Ryan's book club. And all right, guys, check out. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. You can check out all sorts of shows on this channel, such as it's not on. What is that?
It's a Force Unleashed promo. May the Force blow your mind.
Oh,
Wow, what a thing. That's funny.
I prefer Be With You. Thank you.
Become the ultimate. That's Transformers. But
Do you guys
the
remember
Transformers movie coming out.
Yoda the man? That was an ad in Attack of the Clones. It was Yoda the man. Yeah, I remember being like 11 thinking that was funny.
All right. So of course you can check out in audio format my latest episode of Conversation. The second episode is out now. I talked to Kyle Andry of the Dragon Ball Super Dope podcast. Really enjoyed that conversation. Really happy with that one. Stay tuned for more episodes in 2 weeks' time. I got a good guess, which I will leave for the end of the second episode. For now, I will mention who that guest is next week. But it's a good one, guys. I'm excited. It's Ben. I'm kidding. You can, of course, check out all sorts of other shows on this channel. Again, like this video, subscribe to this channel, such as Fake Nerds Watch. We just wrapped up Star Trek Picard and The Mandalorian a couple weeks ago. Stay tuned for Secret Invasion. I always forget. That one's next, right?
Next month? Yep.
Yes, Secret Invasion next month. That and Strange New Worlds are kind of going to hit Fake Nerds Watch at the same time. So until then, we'll be focusing on some other things that are coming down the pipeline, like Animation Station, Star Wars Visions Volume 2. Check out Visions Volume 1, but Visions Volume 2 will be coming in the near future.
True.
Yeah. Animation Station, as Spark said, new episode with Star Wars Visions Volume 1. That's out. That's in the description below. That's out now. Check it out. There's also Basement Arcade. Basement Arcade Pause Menu are 2 video game shows. Basement Arcade Pause Menu is our video game discussion show, whereas Basement Arcade Regular is just the Let's Play series. It's just Let's Plays. A lot of fun. We've been recording some. I'm excited for those.
Yeah, there will be some Basement Arcade this month, so keep an eye out for that as well.
Yeah. And of course, Fake Nerd Book Club, which is also there. And our newest show, The Real Score. The Real Score is our brand new baby boy show, or baby girl, I won't judge. Where we talk about the Batman. That's out now. That's still out now. New episode coming soon with the Mask of Zorro.
Mm-hmm.
And we already mentioned up top, but there's one coming for King Kong. That show's happening, guys. Patreon, TeePublic, if you want to support us financially, we really appreciate it if you do. Those are there. You can check out our website. All those links are linked below. Our website is also linked below, and that is a hub for everything. It is up to date. It is completely up to date. There is now a link where you can find the real score, for example. So go check that site out. We've got a lot of stuff on there. Links to everything that I mentioned here. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone who listens. Thank you to everyone who watches the live show, and thank you to everyone who watches the replay. We greatly appreciate your support. Thank you to Jeremy Vellucci, a new co-host of The Real Score, and the person who did all the music you've heard here tonight, as well as on all of our shows. And him with the new conversation theme, also the kind of jazzy kind of conversation kind of intro. I really like it. You can find his show Suburban Proctologist. Sorry, you can find him at Jeremy Vellucci. Rec of Time. You can also check out his show Suburban Proctologist, which just put up a new episode on iTunes, facebook.com/Suburban Proctologist official, Instagram @SubProc Podcast. Support him. We love him. You can also check out Mike Matola, a frequent collaborator of ours, just did a couple of our logos, including Conversation's new logo. Mike is a wonderful human being. You can find him at Mike Matola on Instagram and Twitter. Nope, Instagram and TikTok.
Yep, that's correct.
You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Fake Nerd Podcast, fakenerdguys@gmail.com. If you'd like to get in touch with us personally, I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. I also write for CBR.com, AtomicGeekdom.com, where a new entry in my Infinity Saga Revisiting series, but Iron Man's PTSD is published. And Kaiju, I am also editor for the website for KaijuRamenMedia.com. My King Kong article, because I talked about it earlier today. My King Kong article was published in the most recent issue of the magazine. Check that out if you'd like. Grayson, thanks so much, everyone. Have a great night and a fantastic week. You too, sir.
Bye, Ben.
You could find me bracing for the mental hellscape that is my job tomorrow, but also watching Indiana Jones and blazing through Metroid Prime so I can get ready for Tears of the Kingdom at BenMagnet27, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You could also find me writing for.
You're really not going to be on the Jedi Survivor.
No, bro, you are definitely not playing this game, are you?
Oh no, I'm playing that game because someone has a copy for me.
Are you beating that game?
Yes, I'm going to beat the game.
You're just not going to play that. You're just not going to be on that discussion, are you?
What?
Peer pressure.
You just mentioned 2 games that weren't it.
It's true. It's true. You continue. Sorry, Ben. We're just goofing your gobs.
Goofing your gobs.
Yeah.
Gooping? We're gooping you.
Well, excuse me. You could find me at BenMag27, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Also find me writing for Fusion Gaming Magazine, Old School Gamer Magazine, GoNintendo.com, and playing Mary Frankenstein in the Dungeons & Dragons Real Play podcast, Dean Dark, which is linked down below.
Good show. Sparks.
You can find me going for a swing to land and then missing, whiffing, falling back, and then thinking, damn, I thought that was closer, at Sparks Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty.
I still like that joke. Good night, Mag. Ryan.
Hey guys, you can find me closing the doors on Star Wars Jedi Survivor because it's almost beaten, so I can play Game of the Year. I'm about to call it Breath of the Wild too. Tears of the Kingdom: the new Zelda saga. At DJ Tony Snark 616. I'm so excited. I just can't.
Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music and Podcast, and Pandora. Rate and review wherever you get us. We greatly appreciate it. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. Until next time you see us, guys, stay fake nerds. Oh, shoot. I wasn't ready.
Press the button. Press the button.
Stay fake nerds.